Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Viral Virtue. It's your favorite apostates. I'm McKay.
I am Jordan.
And welcome to 2026. It's a little bit late, but we did our little holiday break type thing. If you are observant, you may have seen us do a little New Year's live stream with our good friends over at the Fundy Fridays channel, but live here in our house studio. So that was fun. If you want to check that out, we still have the VOD. Probably not as fun now that it's not New Year anymore, but we did have a lot of fun with a lot of you and everything like that. I know it's been a little bit of time, and we asked you, do you want a part 2 to the reaction that we were doing on the interview with Kevin Franke?
Do you want to listen to Kevin
Do
drone
you
on
want to hear that
some
again?
more?
We were not really sure that you did, but every single time I would open up the comments, there were new comments saying, we want to see the other half. We want to see the other half.
So we're going to deliver.
We appreciate your patience, and we're here to deliver.
And
So
hopefully by some miracle, Kevin will talk faster.
yes, we decided to cut it off at a spot that seemed like a good stopping point because he's about to go into Jody moving into their house and everything like that. If you want to see the other first half, basically, go check that out. I'll link it right here.
But first, before we get into it, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Aura.
Take a look at this report of all the information that anybody could just buy on the internet. You have your phone numbers, your email addresses, your neighbors, your vehicles, possible addresses, all kinds of stuff that watercraft.
You know, anything you can imagine.
You can go onto Google right now and just type in your name, and there is a company out there that will run a report and just gather all that information that the internet has gathered freely from you, and just anybody could do it.
And they're making money off of it to make things worse.
How does it feel to you that people are just collecting your data and selling it out from under you to whoever is willing to pay for it? It just feels like a gross violation of privacy and personal space.
But the good news is Aura can help you fight back. Aura protects your privacy by identifying the data brokers that are selling your info, and then takes care of the hard part, which is automatically removing that info from those sites and keeping it off.
There are other services out there that do similar things to what Aura does, but Aura gives you more than what anybody else is offering.
You get alerts if your personal information is found on the dark web, so you don't have to spend time searching for it yourself. You get real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking, 24/7 monitoring to keep your identity secure. And then if anything does happen, Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance protection, and they have US fraud experts that are ready to help you 24/7.
This support is US based, and it's available around the clock if anything goes wrong. So you can try Aura free for 14 days at aura.com/Jordan and McKay. And in those 2 weeks, Aura will get to work scrubbing your personal information off of these data broker sites.
We're not leaving ourselves vulnerable, and you shouldn't either. Thank you, Aura, for sponsoring this episode.
It was one of those things that was like,
I mean,
can we pause and maybe go to that?
No.
Okay.
That one, as a therapist, I'm like, you're not even supposed to be friends with your clients. You're not even supposed to go to lunch with your clients. Like, so that just is such a violation.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
So you need to know the story to that.
This was always like the biggest indicator for me that Jody never gave a about being a therapist, and the title was a means to an end for her. Like, she truly just did not care about ethics or anything because it did not apply to her moral code, which supposedly is from God. So whatever ethics are imposed here on earth are superseded by what God was telling her.
God says if you're a therapist, you can your clients' husbands. That's what God says.
Or their wives.
Or their wives.
Or their parents.
Or whoever's involved.
Yeah. Move into their house.
Move in.
Plunder their goods.
Steal their
'Cause a lot of
followers.
people, that's again one of those holes in the story that people are like, how?
I think the Hulu documentary did a pretty good job.
Kind of.
Describing
but again,
that.
like they only had, 3 50-minute episodes. So
It's hard to tell the
it's
whole
hard
story.
to tell the story to the depth that it deserves to be told. Here's the deal. At some point in it was spring of 2021. We had just wrapped up with some like couples workshop in St. George, and all of us who were like her, chosen helpers were cleaning up, and we wanted to go to dinner together and celebrate. And so we did. Everyone was happy. Everyone's in a good mood. Everyone but Jody. And a couple of the women sensed it, and they asked Jody, what's going on? Like, are you okay? Is something wrong? And it was at that point that Jody confided to these women that she was being haunted by hooded shadow figures at night, and she hadn't.
This. She really was like, how could I make this about me?
Which is so funny to me because she just did this whole workshop, which is basically like, pedestaling herself as the giver of knowledge and wisdom,
right?
And all of these experiences, and then gets like the focus is on her. She's talking, everyone's staring at her. It's like a narcissist's dream to be up there in that position, and then it's still not enough. It's still not enough. She has to create some fictitious story to get more attention because whatever she got there wasn't personal enough. Or if we're following the track record of what was revealed in Sherry's book, like, how do I get people to come to my house at night? Maybe. How do I get women to come support me because I need support at night?
Yeah. It's just like, we did an awesome thing. Obviously that's subjective, but, and you guys are all feeling good about the work that we did, but you need to remember that you're not happy unless I'm happy.
Right, exactly. Which is, it gives a very like codependent vibe when the mood of everyone in a group is dictated by another person is usually a pretty big red flag.
Then who knows how long, she said. And she didn't know why or where they came from, why they were there. That's everything she was saying.
Yeah.
And these women were just like, it was interesting. Some of the women were like immediately just like, okay, well, hey, we need to go. It was like they were so uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
They
Those are the people who in that instant went, ooh, yeah, this is my time to turn tail and get out of this
This might be your
mess.
run-of-the-mill Mormons, too.
Right.
Who don't like anything in that.
Well, and maybe this was some sort of a separating wheat and tares kind of moment where she was like, I'm going to see who will
stick
who's
by me.
Who's going to go to the next level with me.
Yeah.
Immediately were like, nope, like this is my boundary of how I'm going to interact, but I'm not going to go further than this. But there were two individuals, and I can say her name because she was in the documentary. It was Paige Hannah and my ex-wife, Ruby Franke. Those two women just immediately went to Jody and were like, okay, we can help you, And so that kicked off this really intense belief that Satan himself was attacking and targeting Jody because she was chosen by God to bring this technique of this message of connections to the world that was going to heal couples and marriages and families throughout the world. And Satan was.
This is something they employ in Mormonism. I'm sure it's not unique to Mormonism because, like, what is? But
it's basically the persecution fetish dressed up in Mormon clothing.
And they use it as a device to add validity to what's going on, especially when they talk about like the martyrdom, so to speak, of Joseph Smith.
Mm-hmm.
They use the fact that he was persecuted as like, this was a tool. The mob that killed him was a tool of the adversary to try and ruin God's plan to restore his gospel or something like that. And it definitely had nothing to do with the fact that he destroyed a printing press of a paper that was exposing him for his polygamy that he said he wasn't doing while he was running for president. and defrauding the saints in like different places and all of that. The
Sexually
way that she's
assaulting women,
employing,
young
right. The way that she's
girls.
employing this is just like so Mormon coded,
But
where she's like, these demons are coming to attack me because what I have is the truth because God's talking to me.
well, yeah, because if you look at it in that context, it's like it's a really good manipulation tactic to basically take any form of criticism and dress it up as like something that can just be discarded because it means I'm valid in what I'm doing and like I'm on the right track, because if Satan is coming after me, then that means I'm doing what God has intended me to do. And Mormons do this to this day. Like if Mormons are like going through trials or they're having difficult periods in their life, it's like this idea of like the refiner's fire and like you're doing what you should be doing because, you know, God is testing you and like that's important so you can show the dedication to your faith. And if Satan's coming after you, that means that you're on the right track. And it's really easy to look at all that through that lens and never give any weight to any kind of criticism that could be coming from that. Like it's a really nice, manipulative, like almost thought-stopping strategy within Mormonism.
And you get it from both sides. When things are rough, you're being tested. The adversary is after you because you're doing the right thing. And when things are good, it's because God is blessing you. So there's literally no downside.
You can make it work however you want it to. It's the intention behind it.
So determined to stop it that he was like sending demons to attack and torment Jody.
Wow.
So
Okay.
like, again, you know.
And they believed it.
Oh yeah,
And
and we
then
believed it
you
too.
believed
Like
it.
us as the husbands,
Yeah.
we believed it. And it was again one of those like stroke your ego kind of things, because it's like
This is where Mormonism, like Mormon doctrine kind of gets into the weeds too, because if you ask the average Mormon if they believe in demons, they would tell you no. Like demons and demonic things within Mormonism is much more, like in my experience, is much more a Christian evangelical pull than it is a Mormon one. Whereas like the label of a demon is very interesting to me. Like you might pull a Mormon for like evil spirits maybe, or fallen angels, you know, Satan's little people, but like the language of demons. And I grew up in a household where my mom was very fixated on the devil and Satan, and like it was a constant in my house. And she did not talk about demons, and my mom was obsessed. So like the demonic thing is very interesting to me because I almost feel like Jody's not really pulling from Mormon doctrine here. She's just like grabbing what's convenient. But I say that because I feel like this would turn a lot of average Mormons off. I feel like this would be kind of the separation of like your average Mormon from like maybe the Visions of Glory.
Yeah, I would say so.
Type Mormon.
Well, I think especially when you talk about like exorcisms, usually like the general Mormon public is not talking about that or kind of experiencing.
There are Mormons who are surprised by that.
Right. And they like what you see in the movies or whatever, I feel like is more of a characterization of other kind of denominations.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like if the bishop is going to cast out evil spirits or whatever, they're just like going and kneeling in the living room and praying or whatever.
Raising
it's really
their
like
arm
not
to the square or whatever. Like it's
intense usually.
No, it's not. But like
there are outliers, but
there's clearly lore here that she's running with, I think.
righteous men, you have the priesthood, so you can give her a blessing or cast out the evil spirits. We need you. We need your righteousness. We need your strength. So there it is. You hear it?
Yeah.
There's the inflate our egos, right?
Right.
And so of course we step up and we think, oh yeah, we got this. And that started this whole thing. Now, again, I'm not going to get into the details because I don't know the details. All I know is at some point in the spring of 2021, Jody contacted the Hannahs and was desperate. The Hannahs say that she was suicidal, saying that she was going to jump off a highway bridge onto I-15 in front of a semi and end her life. And the Hannahs were like, as any good friend, like, no, let me help. You need to be taken care of. You can't be alone. We're going to come get you. And so they did. Drove down, met her, brought her back into their home in Utah County. And she was there with them for, I don't know how long, like 3 weeks, a month. She was in their home. And
On some level, as a therapist, I like the idea of community and people in your life stepping up if you are in this kind of position where you're feeling this way. I would much rather somebody be with people who reasonably know how to, like, what the expectations of themselves need to be if they're caring for a person who's experiencing suicidal ideation. I would much rather have somebody have that experience than have to be hospitalized. But what I want to caution here is I don't know, because there's a possibility Jody could be lying. There's a possibility this is another way that she's trying to worm her way in. It's a possibility that this is true, that there's like severe mental illness manifesting, right? We could have a whole, like, I can't diagnose her, I don't know, or we have a whole possibility slew of things that could be going on at this point. But like, to take on care for somebody who's experienced suicidal ideation is a huge responsibility. Emotionally, physically, there's a big demand. And I'm not saying that it's bad if somebody wants to do that. Like I said, I'd much prefer that to hospitalization if someone is able. But I don't think they knew what they were getting into with this. And I think it's a little bit unfair in that context, because like, if you're going to be taking somebody in like that, in my ideal circumstance, that person would also be receiving support and services and mental health support. And I know those are all hard to access. And I know, don't bean soup me in the comments over that. But like,
we're talking about people who are well
off and have no reason to not have access to resources. Like, this would be a circumstance where, let's get you a therapist. Hey, maybe we need to do, like, not hospitalize you, but like, can we do a more intensive outpatient for a little while? Can we can we address the concerns? Because I think it's kind of unfair that she just like put herself in these people's homes and like almost like, what's the homeless law rule people were, what's the
squatters rights?
Squatters rights. Like, it's giving squatters rights in these people's home.
Right.
And I don't think I don't think they were thinking that's what they were committing to. And I think, if I recall, everybody soon figured out that they were in over their heads. And I think the Hannahs eventually called the bishop and was like, I don't know what to do with her. But like, I feel like this is not your average situation. And I don't know whether mental illness was actually the motivating factor here. Knowing Jody, there is a part, and I'm not trying to deny that she is mentally ill. There's definitely something going on there, I would imagine. But
two things can be true.
Can be true at the same time. But I almost wonder if this was just more manipulation on her part to get into somebody's house. Because if she wasn't going to get into Ruby's first, she was going to try to get into these people's first, right? And then when they kick her out, she goes to Ruby. It's like, was this the plan all along? Because she seems very intentionally manipulative. I would not be surprised if this was 100% her plan.
Well, I feel like this is early on enough that I think the Hannahs at the time were still her number ones.
That could have been, yeah.
And so we have confirmation that they were doing seminars with connections materials at their homey office. So like,
they were invested.
They were very invested. So they were probably subject to patient zero.
Well, maybe it was a
little
test
experiment. Yeah.
Maybe she was aiming to test the both of them. Who is more boundaryless?
Yeah.
Like, who is willing to go into this experience and potentially forsake their marriage, forsake their children, let me take over their life completely, let me take over. Because the Hannahs had a public vlog. They weren't as big as Ruby, but they also had a platform.
Yeah.
Like, maybe she narrowed in on these two very much intentionally.
Well, and I would imagine that in a situation like this, she has a whole MO, and it's always to separate women from their husbands.
Sure.
And their relationship was probably too strong. And
maybe
they got tired of her trying to wear them down. And then obviously Kevin's personality lends to being more submissive to
maybe
Ruby.
that's why. Maybe that's why she goes into the house, is she has to get a front row seat to the marriage to see who's more, who's worse off, you know? And it wouldn't be hard to see with Ruby and Kevin, if they were already struggling, that like that was the right call.
Could be.
They eventually asked her to leave. Again, I don't know everything that happened there. I don't know the nature of things. There was a scene in the documentary that showed a possessed Jody Hildebrandt. That video was taken while she was there at the Hannah's home. They were the ones who recorded that.
Wild.
We have to say something because people will notice. We reminded ourselves that we have free agency here and we don't have to listen to Kevin talk so slow. So I'm not going to 2-speed him because that's too fast for some people. So we're just going with a nice 1.25 to try to get some pep in his step, if you will.
A little pep in the step. Sorry. I know a lot of people also in the comments were saying he talks so slow. So I'm hoping to remedy that a bit. But I feel like Julie talks a lot quicker. So
she does.
Wild. Yeah. Hannah's home. They were the ones who recorded that. Wild. Yeah.
I wondered who recorded that. So the Hannahs recorded that. Because I was like, there's no way that was Ruby. So that's nice confirmation.
That's funny.
It was wild. So what you need to understand, here's Ruby's insecurities again. Ruby wants to be the favorite. She wants to be Jody's chosen, number one. She doesn't want to be number two. She wants to be number one. Paige Hannah was the one nurturing Jody, was the one that Jody was
Damn, I'm
such
so
an
good.
Interesting perspective, yeah.
I'm so good.
Fighting in, was the one that Jody called, not Ruby, Paige.
So competition, need
and
for...
It drove Ruby insane. She was so upset over that. And she really wanted in. And I did too, like, to be fair. I wanted to know, like, hey, what's going on? Like, and everything that was being told was like, oh, this is so sacred. It's so beautiful what's happening. Like, this is miraculous, nothing short of like godly. And when the time's right, we'll bring you into it. We'll tell you. But for now,
so you guys are on the outside, just probably dying.
Not the milk before meat over here. The same way with the temple.
We're gatekeeping the lady's delusions. Okay.
Like, let us into the secret. Let us be in the inner circle.
Yeah, like it's very human nature, right? To feel that way.
It's so painful to see the parallel there. He could be talking about the temple.
Oh, 100%.
That, like, everybody, it's like that. It's almost like that element of curiosity because they don't talk about what's going on in the temple. Like, if you have devout parents like I did, they went every month and you just didn't ask.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about it openly with you. It's just, and then it has that kind of allure of, well, I want to be part of that. Like, I want to be in this club.
Yeah.
Kind of aspect to it.
Well, at one point then, Jody calls Ruby, and Ruby was ecstatic. And Jody was just beside herself, sobbing, bawling, and telling the story of how the Hannahs were holding her against her will, and she wanted to leave, but they were trying to indoctrinate her into another cult with another lady, and that she needed to escape, but she didn't know how, and she managed to escape. And she was so devastated and felt betrayed, and now she was turning to Ruby for help.
Can I interject? At the time,
Isn't that funny how Jody was being held hostage? Isn't that interesting?
It's just, like, to me, it's the standard. Like, I know we look at this often in terms of families, but like codependency and enmeshment. And like when people ask me questions about those kinds of things, this is what we're talking about. And like, obviously this is a severe case, but like codependent or enmeshed family units thrive on drama and chaos. And so these kinds of things work perfectly for this dynamic because it's like keeping people on the in and out and who's in the inner circle and what's going on and like backstabbing and like it's your, it's the craziest novel that you could imagine, but like that's how you keep people kind of pulled in on some level in codependency and enmeshment. And this is why people get stuck in this cycle because if you grew up in this cycle, it'll feel really familiar to you. It feels like chaos, and that feels, I mean, it's not safe, but it feels at least, if nothing else, familiar, right? So like this is just, to me, like Jody, I think Jody intentionally knows like how to shit stir a little bit, like how to offer like just enough but not too much, and then also how to manipulate people in terms of like when the codependent people who are supporting her are choosing to set some boundaries and disengage from her behavior a little bit. She's like, oh shit, I've lost my opportunity. So what do I have to do now? I have to go to the other people who have a weird, creepy codependent relationship with me. And if I entice Ruby, I've got her right where I want her. She'll invite me right in. Like, I think she knew this setup. I honestly think she preferred the Hannahs first. And because it didn't work out, she went to Ruby. Like, as time goes on, I don't know that Ruby was first choice. I think Ruby made sense because she tuned into Jody's chaos enough that it worked.
Right.
did any of you recognize that this is totally unethical, inappropriate behavior for a
No.
professional?
No.
That professionals never call their clients when they're in distress? Like that's a ethical boundary violation?
Yeah. Well, like at that time,
Yeah.
no. Because at that time, like Jody from day one was blurring her
Was
roles.
she a coach? Was she a therapist?
A friend or an elect woman of God. Like all those things were blended into one.
Okay, got it.
And so
This is why I have, like obviously I have religious trauma, so this inflates my experience and my narrative around these things. But this is why I struggle with religious therapists, and not every religious therapist. There are plenty of religious therapists who are like, my religion is none of your business, and there is no reason why I would ever bring it into session. There are plenty of religious therapists who feel that way, and I respect those therapists, and I admire those therapists because that's the way it fucking should be. That's the way we're taught. But like so often, I see therapists do shit like this, or I've had experiences where people have told me, oh, my therapist asked if they could pray for me. And I'm like, this is just so inappropriate. Like, it doesn't matter the intention. It doesn't matter if it's the kind or polite thing to do. If you're Mormon and I'm Mormon and we're in a Mormon therapist professional relationship and the client says, hey, would it be okay if we prayed together, or would you pray for me? And the therapist is comfortable with that.
Fine.
Be my guest. If that's what makes you feel better, if that is your coping mechanism, I am all for that. But like, it just seems like too many therapists can't keep this roped in enough to where it doesn't cause boundary violations or it doesn't cause problems. And that's where I get concerned, because what Kevin's talking about here is like boundaries and ethical responsibilities and all of those things don't matter when your therapist is an elect woman of God. Right? Like, it's irrelevant because she's speaking to God. What? Like, God wouldn't tell her anything that would violate a boundary. What are boundaries if she's an elect woman of God? And like, obviously this is an extreme example, right?
Well, and even if there are boundaries, if you think that God is all powerful and benevolent or whatever, do you think that God would violate a boundary that was just? If there is a boundary and it needs to be violated, God should just do it, right?
Right. So like, this is where, you know, it scares me. And I just tell people to be very mindful. And I always tell people, when you're looking for therapists or you're looking for somebody who matches that vibe, it's okay to ask for somebody specifically who is secular or non-religious, if that's your vibe. Just like it's totally appropriate for you to ask somebody for who's Mormon or Christian or whatever. It scares me. Like and again, I was traumatized by religion, so obviously this is going to put me on edge maybe more than the average person. But I think this is why I see the potential. This is an extreme example, but I also see minor examples in my work all the time. And so it seems like these kinds of things are happening even on a small scale very frequently. And that's what kind of icks me about this whole thing. But again, just a thought.
Oh, no, we didn't realize any of that. And should that have been a red flag for us? Absolutely. We didn't.
Yeah.
You know, there was like a stop sign and we just blew right through it.
And so she ends up.
It doesn't matter, though. This is the parallel here with Mormonism. Like, the boundary violations and shit that's wrong can be incredibly obvious, and you're not going to see it. And like, I don't want you to blame yourself for it. It's designed to be that way.
Right.
So like, I don't blame them for not seeing it.
At your house.
Eventually.
Okay.
Not at first. So again, remember, this is like April, maybe May of 2021. And all through that summer, she's like communicating with us, and we get her in touch with her local bishop. And so Ruby and I and her bishop are communicating on the hour.
Because she's still suicidal?
And getting possessed and going into these trances and all this stuff. And she's down in her home in Ivans. We're up in Springville. We're trying to help how we can. The bishop's going over there.
If anyone's getting possessed by a demon, it's in that fucking house. Even before that house had bad vibes. Even before
bad vibes,
like
indeed.
You just look at it, it's like, this does not look like
like a compound,
a dwelling where people exist. It looks like a prison for
a weird
evil
resort.
spirits.
But isn't this interesting though? Isn't on some level this part of it interesting? Because in my mind, I'm like, why are they talking to the bishop? Why are these two random adult individuals talking to the bishop? But like, this is how Mormonism works.
Right.
And like, I've experienced this firsthand when I tried to move forward with me being sexually assaulted and every God knows bishop and adult was involved who should have never been involved. Like, this is what people do, though, is, again, there's no boundaries. There is no boundaries in Mormon relationships, particularly. So if you're like, hey, I'm concerned about this person, even though it'd be like, hey, maybe this is none of your business. Hey, maybe if this person isn't aware, maybe let's not talk about that. They're like, oh no, let's talk about it. Come on in. What's wrong with Jody?
Let's get it all.
Tell me more. Like, you know, and maybe Jody wanted this in part, but like, to me, this just illustrates again how much wider the like codependent circle is getting. That like Kevin and Ruby are involved with her bishop. And like, why is the bishop, like the bishop is involved, I understand, because she's like possessed by Satan or whatever. But like, in my opinion, even this is above the bishop's pay grade.
Right. I don't know how to save an image as a PDF file. What can I do to help you? All right.
Nonstop. And again, like, this is Jody's manipulation. It's, I have a fear of priesthood leaders, Bishop. I've been abused. I've been sexually molested by priesthood leaders in my past. And so, like, if you cross my boundary once, I will never trust you again. So what do you think her bishop did? Like, was so careful to honor her wishes and everything. So she was always like with the bishop, I want just you to come over and visit me. And so he was over there all the time. He'd be over there till 2, 3 in the morning, like blessing her, trying to cast out these, you know, demons and exorcising these evil spirits out of her.
And no one thought like this woman needs to be hospitalized for a mental health crisis?
Well, absolutely.
Okay, but did someone say that? Did anyone say, like, let's get her to a hospital?
Yeah.
Okay. Way to go.
But, here's what was said. Jody said, this was one of Jody's secrets, was that she had been institutionalized 2 other times in her life.
What did I say? I think this is, especially after reading her book, I believe Jody is a deeply traumatized person. And not all deeply traumatized people act out and hurt other people. That is, a whole lot of majority of us are traumatized and don't ever intend to or hurt other people. But when it's this out of control, she's coping by hurting other people. And like, this is where I think Mormonism fails too, is like, they fail in how they manage a lot of things. Like we've seen over the last few years and decades, I mean, back to the inception of this organization, if you can even call it that, was mishandling of sexual assault and mishandling of those things of that nature, and especially involving children. Like we see all the time, like the Mormon church is being sued all the time for not reporting, and is trying to protect their rights as an organization to not have to report because of clergy privilege. And I just see that in this same vein. Like Mormonism is so hesitant to reach outside of Mormonism's little tent to do anything else or seek support or seek advice. Like even their lawyers who protect them are in-house. So like it makes perfect sense to me that her bishop was like, yeah, I think I can handle this, and isn't necessarily pursuing or considering involving a mental health professional. Or if they are, they're going to pull someone from LDS services, right? It always comes from in-house. But this tendency to keep everything inside and to not let anyone in, like, it's dangerous. It's dangerous in terms of sexual assault. It's dangerous in terms of mental health problems. Like, Jody needed intervention long before now. And it's horrifying because I think while Jody is a horrifying, abusive, horrendous person, Jody was also abused and sexually assaulted by people within this organization. So, like, isn't it interesting that she's experienced the same trauma? And that doesn't justify anything she does. No, it doesn't. But, you know, we're good at holding 2 things at the same time, right? But, like, I just think that's so fascinating in the sense that, like, she has been abused by this organization. And then they continually not offer her help, not offer any intervention, not do anything of value to support her. It's crazy to me.
Just line after line of just
missed opportunity.
Totally.
And she said she'd been strapped down and been pumped full of drugs to subdue her. And she said the demons that tormented her in that state was more than she could bear. She begged, she pleaded, she cried, please do not take me back there. I can't face that again.
Wow.
I don't
Do
think
not
she's
blame her.
I don't think she's
No.
exaggerating about that. I mean, especially like if she was hospitalized in her youth, which I would imagine was around that time or like when she was a young adult. Obviously, hospitalization has come a long way, and in my opinion, still has a long way to go. But if you are very seriously in crisis, or if the hospital is worried about you hurting somebody else, and it's all kind of up to them. They don't really need much justification, unfortunately, for things like that. They can absolutely drug you. They can absolutely give you medications that will subdue you and get you to relax. And sometimes that is for the safety of everyone else
Right.
involved. I don't want to say that these people in these places are doing it maliciously, but it can be extensively traumatizing. Ask anybody who's ever been hospitalized for mental health
Right.
reasons before. I have yet in my career to have heard from someone who had a positive experience being hospitalized for mental health issues. It is generally deeply traumatizing for a variety of reasons. And so I don't think she's lying
Right.
about this. I wouldn't doubt if that was a deeply traumatizing experience for her. And it would make sense to me why she would avoid it.
It'll, preserve your life for a time or whatever.
For
It's
a
like
time.
a Heimlich maneuver. It should
Sometimes
be,
not even then. Sometimes
Yeah.
people run out. Sometimes people find ways to hurt themselves. Like it's no sure thing. But like in a pinch, if you're desperate, will it do? For sure. Do I think we need serious reform in how we handle these things?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Can help me. You are strong enough. You can do this. And so again, like her bishop and Ruby both were like, this is our job. We can do this. We can step up. But we wanted to elevate it with church leadership and authority.
Yeah.
And she just flat out refused. Like, no. Eventually, at some point in July or August, her bishop was like, I'm done. Like, I can't keep doing this. Hey, I have an idea. I think she should come up to your house where she can stay full time, and you're there, so you can just give her a blessing when she needs it. And
So he's trying to unload her on you,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
That's exactly
I was
what
Yeah.
he's
opposed to
doing.
it at first. I was like, absolutely not. Like, and I knew like she was counseling our children
At
as
the
a
same
therapist.
time,
Yeah.
as a
And-
therapist.
as their therapist. And she was working with Ruby, and I was attending her men's groups. So I considered that she was working with all of us. And now she's going to move in. Like, how's that going to work? And so I objected, but it was again one of those, how could you, Kevin? Like, this woman needs us. This is your time to stand up. This is your time to shine.
And she finally got picked. Ruby finally got
Yes,
picked.
she got picked and she's desperate
And
to
now her
maintain that
husband-
status.
That is like the easiest wedge that could have been driven. I finally got picked, and now you don't want me to do this for her after
Yeah.
I finally got picked?
Fabulous wedge to drive right there immediately.
Right there.
And I mean, this is going to be activating for Ruby if I suspect she has childhood trauma, which I suspect she does. The role of fixing, saving, protecting becomes very important in these contexts. And when you see an opportunity like that part of her is going to go, my time has come. I know how to do this. I know how to manage, especially if you think about like the eldest daughter kind of complex when you've got like lots of responsibilities, or in Mormon dynamics when there's like, a million kids and the oldest daughter is just expected to kind of fill in the blank. Like taking on that kind of responsibility is familiar and validating. And this is how like the codependent cycle continues, right? But like Jody's put her in such a great position because Ruby gets to be the fixer here.
Ruby gets to be the special one because she's now going to come and live with her.
Yeah. And at this point, the Hannahs were like, done. Like, she's dangerous. She's wacko. We don't want anything to do with it. And to their credit, like, they tried to warn us.
They did.
And
Oh,
we
good.
pushed them away. Like, no, like, we believe Jody's story of
Wow.
like they kidnapped her and held her against her will. And
Wow.
and so, again, the truth, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I have a hard time seeing them kidnapping her, knowing them, so I don't believe that anymore.
Yeah.
But at the time, yeah, we believed Jody over everybody else. So yeah, she moved in August of 2021, and she was there between August of 2021 till January of 2022.
That long?
Yep.
Like months.
Yep.
And at what point were you asked to leave?
Leave the house or
Yeah.
go into the in-house separation?
Well, both.
The in-house separation was from middle of October until the first week, until about New Year's. So that time. about the week before she left to go back to Ivan's, where she felt like she was cured. The permanent separation came about
I wonder what the cure was. Was it blizzards from DQ?
months later, in July of 2022.
And that at that point is when you didn't see your kids for a year.
Yep.
Okay. A lot of people have a hard time understanding how that came about. And I think you've shared a lot that would make that make sense. Is there anything else you want to say about
No, it was just this constant drip of you're the problem, you're the problem, you're the problem.
and
your
you're
greed,
dangerous.
Yeah, your greed, your lust, your insecurities, your ego, all of those things are the root of the problem in your family.
It's you. So let's remove you and your family will do better.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
And you really believe that?
It wasn't so much like framed to me as like, we need you to leave because you're like bad. It was like, you need to go over here and work on yourself and heal yourself and then come back to us a healed and a truthful and a
better
like
man.
a man of truth, you know? And like, so it became like almost like a mission. Like
I'm going to heal and I'm going to be better for my family.
It was like, go over here and Jody will work with you individually and then you'll get healed and tight and strong and powerful and then reunite with your wife and change the world. Like,
so is this kind of vision of...
It sounds like committing a sin where you have to go to the bishop.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, literally, I feel like there is almost a Mormon analog to every single thing that she does. And I hold to the point, which is this didn't happen to anyone. It happened to them because of how Mormonism set them up.
Well, yeah.
And Jody took advantage of those
The structure.
characteristics of Mormonism.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like she was like writing this version, but it's like, write what you know. What you know is Mormonism. And so what is she going to pull from? Unintentionally. I don't think she's intentionally going into this and being like, I'm going to pull the Mormon characteristics. If she did, she's smart because she knows it'll work better, especially for Mormon populations. But I don't think it's intentional, but it's like it's a write what you know type situation. She pulled what's in her psyche. She pulled what's in her background. She pulled the familiar things from childhood. She pulled like all of those things are what she knows. And if Mormonism is as dominant in their lives as it always been, of course, that's going to be like the dominant string that weaves throughout this whole thing.
What could happen down the road.
Yeah, that's the carrot that she always dangled out in front of me. Like a lot of people, and even I have like, shared how she's berated me over that year and beat me down and broke me again and broke me again publicly. And so a lot of people would ask like, well, why didn't you just leave? Well, a few reasons. Because she didn't just break you down. Like anybody would just leave in that. But a powerful manipulator knows that hope is a better means of control than just despair. And so she would always put this carrot out that's like, you are such a strong man. I've seen it. I've had a vision. I know the kind of man you are. And you're going to become that man. But you need to step up. You need to like get tighter. You need to try harder. Like, you see the difference?
Yeah.
So she would break you, but then she'd put this carrot on a stick out there.
If you do this, then this will happen and you can have your family and you can be the kind of man that I've envisioned.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I was always like, okay, maybe next week, maybe next month I can go back home. But like week after week after week, Jody would keep herself distant from me, and she would, every indication she would give me is, you haven't budged. You haven't moved an inch. If anything, you've gone backwards. You are nowhere near ready to go back home. That was really discouraging. After doing everything I knew how, after complying in every way I possibly could, I mean, the extents to which I
think this is probably a cruel perspective and none of us will really know unless Jody ever decides to do like a very honest tell-all, which I don't think she's capable of. I don't think she has any intention in helping any of these men. I really don't. Like, I think maybe on her better days, she might think she does. I think she might think she's helping in some like twisted way. But like getting Kevin out to this point, she's dangling this carrot, but she's dangling the carrot so he doesn't completely divest from the process, right? Like, she's doing this to keep him invested. I don't think she had any intention in actually trying to be helpful at all. Like, I don't think she cared. I think
I
she
think
got
you're right.
what she wanted at this point, and Kevin is kind of irrelevant, and she just kind of has to, like, throw him a carrot every once in a
Right.
while and keep him out of the house. And, like, whatever that takes is whatever it takes. I don't think she really gives a shit.
Like, tried to change my life and be perfect were devastating. I mean, it destroyed me in every sense of the word.
Well, you were completely isolated from what I recall.
Mhm.
You had minimal social interaction.
And that was a requirement. It's like everyone, Kevin, is going to tell you this is crazy. Everyone's going to tell you, what are you doing? You got to leave. You got to get out of it. Those are all people that are Satan is controlling. He's got them.
So she predicted.
Mormonism to a T, right? Like,
Right.
lazy learners, lax disciples, anybody who is going to be, they're not actually happy. There is some intelligence to Jody's manipulation techniques here, because she takes what Mormonism does and essentially implements it. Like, she heads off these possibilities before they even come to fruition. So by the time Kevin's experiencing that, he's also thinking that Jody is kind of prophetic in the
Right.
sense that Jody told me that people would say that, and now this person is saying that she's crazy, and like it's affirming his faith in Jody, ironically. Something like that is such a small tactic,
Totally.
but carries such weight in this situation.
And it's like not even prophetic. It's just, yeah, when you tell people that this is what's going on, they're going to think it's fucking crazy, because it is.
But I think that's what it is
And-
she knows.
Yeah, no, she absolutely does that. And whether she's deluded herself into thinking that people think it's crazy because I'm right
Mhm.
and they are wrong and they are in distortion, or whether it's, some sort of manipulation tactic, that's obviously up for debate, but that's just what it is. It's just intuition.
I
That you
could
know how people
easily
are going to
see
react.
both. But I mean, lost enough in her own sauce that I could see like a really big ego being like, it doesn't matter. Like, people are going to say
Yeah.
that because they know I'm right, because
Yeah.
they know I'm trying to get you to something that they can't rise to. Like, I think that would be the most likely hypothesis in my opinion.
Those responses in a way that would make you trust her more.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Including the police, right?
Right.
So a lot of people have seen the documentary, have seen the interview I had with police, and when everything when everything like
when you
came
first-
to a head.
That was very clear that you had no idea what was going on. When I saw that, I'm like, he had no idea. He's
All
not
I
a
knew
part of
was
this.
I was there to get my kids. I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going on. But my wife, who I hadn't spoken to for months and months, called me and said, "You got to go pick up the kids. They're at this police station. Show me that you're ready to step up and be the man that I need you to be." Right. And so, okay, like, of course, I'm going to drive down there and get my kids. I'm thinking they're just sitting there like in the waiting room at the police station.
Yeah.
I had no expectation they're going to take me into a side room. I mean, I thought it was weird when they brought me back there and they had a cop sitting there in full body armor just sitting next to me.
You're like, what's
And I
what
was
is
like,
happening?
"You don't need to stay here." And he's like, "Well, actually, sir, I do. You want some water? I'll get you some water." But like, I'm like, "Why are you here?" And then the detectives come in and sit down, and then you see,
Yeah.
you've seen that. But the whole thing in my head that was playing out was everything that Jody had told me for months and months and months leading up to that the police were corrupt, that they were the wolves trying to tear my family apart.
It might be the only right thing she's ever said.
God damn.
That might be the only accurate thing that's ever
when
come
you're
out
right-
of Jody's mouth.
When you're right, but for the wrong reason.
Broken clock's right twice a day, but
Right. We're always coming back to the parallels with Mormonism, but I think it's important to always talk about, because people, a lot of times they're like, why don't people just wake up and realize what Mormonism is for what it is? And this is a perfect example where even in the face of like a earth-shattering event or like realization, it still takes time for him to unravel
Mhm.
what has already been wrapped around his mind. A lot of times it's not going to come all at once where you have an epiphany and you're like, holy shit, I need to get out of here.
no, it's
Sometimes
bit
it
by
does.
bit.
But the way that they weave these webs
Mm-hmm.
to ensnare people for such a long time, and sometimes even for life, is so intricate and done over such a long time that people don't even notice it.
It's true.
Don't trust authority other than me.
Yep.
So you're thinking they're being manipulative, they're evil.
They are
They're-
under Satan's control, and they want to tear my family apart.
Mm.
Jody's words were, "They are the wolves trying to tear you apart. Don't let them." And so that's what's in my head the whole time. It's like, I'm in the,
To me, that's so interesting to me because I see two possibilities for that. I see the possibility that when she was sexually assaulted by people within the church, that she went to the police and they tried to pursue it. And ultimately, what happens when people go to the police and report sexual assault? Usually nothing, right?
Yeah.
So like she had a horrible experience there, which is incredibly common. Or in my mind, the more sinister explanation, which I hope isn't the case, is she's playing the long game. Like she knows what she's doing potentially, especially with children,
Yeah.
would warrant criticism and potentially even be against the law. And because of that, she kind of, especially with Ruby, kind of has to head off the possibility that police approach her or, she
Totally.
is okay with, like, not okay with doing things against the law. Like, to me, that's the more sinister explanation. I'm inclined to go with the first one, but I could also see.
She's
that one as well.
inoculating them to see if the ultimate, fuck up in her whatever she's trying to do, or,
Because that's very intentional on her part, because Mormons do not feel
Yeah.
that way about police.
generally no.
I mean, they should.
Well, they used to.
I was going to say,
But-
back in the day,
Back in the
that was
day,
a different
we were
story.
not-
But
not
now
so
they
friendly.
primarily lean conservative, and that's very much not a mentality that's shared
Yeah.
by Mormons.
No,
But
you're
you
totally
got your
right.
like libertarian anti-governments mixed in there too, but they're a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
the wolves den to rescue my kids. I got to get them out of here. I got to just get home and like
And they're telling you
take care of my kids.
Jody and Ruby are the wolves. And you're like, I remember your face was like, does not compute. Like, what
Yeah.
are you talking about?
Yeah, I didn't even register that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, that's what a wolf would say, right?
Right. It's not us.
Yeah. And so that whole process was, that was the moment that the crack began in that foundation. And then more cracks. And over the space of a week, the whole thing just collapsed. My whole universe collapsed.
Every
I think maybe this is an interesting bit of reflection, and people might not like me for this, and that's fine. But I think this is an interesting moment of reflection, and I don't think we really treat Kevin as if he was in a cult. But if we look historically at the cults in the United States and in other places that have caused harm, we wouldn't ask somebody who was in a cult and then informed that their partner, who was also in the cult, their kids are at the police station, and expect him to walk out of the cult, go pick up his kids, and be like totally demystified by the
Right.
cult experience that he's
No,
had at
totally.
that point. Like, what has changed for Kevin in that period of time that would make him forsake the things that Jody was telling him during this entire period? You know what I mean? And I get it. I'm a mom. The thought of not being in touch with my child for any given reason is insane to me. It's hard to compute. I get that. But like, I think sometimes we don't. And I think this perspective from Kevin is really interesting because he's walking into there already indoctrinated about what the police are going to tell him. And he believes it. So like, what would we expect somebody who's fully indoctrinated to do in that position? And I don't think it's any different than what he did. And sometimes I think we have unfair expectations of Kevin, given that he has been indoctrinated in a cult by a cult leader herself for a very long time. Does it excuse anything he's done? No. Does it excuse the harm that he's done? The emotional impact on his children? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I think at this juncture, is it really appropriate of us to have any other expectation of him than what he did? Like, he's prepped for this situation where the police are the literal wolves that are going to lie to him about Jody and Ruby, and he's bought in. He's bought in.
Totally.
Like, again, it doesn't make any of this right. In fact, it makes it all the more complex and fucked up. But I think with some reflection, we can understand why he would be in that situation. And people were like, he seems aloof. He seems like he doesn't care. And I'm looking at it through this lens now, and I'm like, he was on guard.
Yeah.
Like, he already had a narrative walking into this experience, and I don't even know it was shock more so than, like, how can I get my kids away from these evil people? And not Jody and Ruby,
Totally.
the police.
Right.
You know, like, that's a very interesting insight for this.
Well, and you look at situations like Lori Vallow or whatever, where they take theology and it's like a mixture of perversion of that theology and mental illness and things. Like, it seems, or at least from what she has told people, which obviously take that with a grain of salt because you've seen how she talks, right? She truly believed that those children were going to be like the devil's possessions because of their fallen state or whatever. And that the only way out for them was to kill them. So, like, people, when they are indoctrinated,
mentally
ill, they will go to great lengths. That's kind of getting away from the point. But anyway.
I just think sometimes we also want somebody to blame in this situation. It's really easy to blame Ruby and Jody, obviously. And obviously Kevin had a role. And Kevin had a role long before this. We still have issues with Kevin based on his involvement in exploiting his kids.
I don't like him.
And like, you know, the abuse allegations that existed long before Jody ever came into the picture. And so I wanted to be clear that all of those things still stand. But like, I think it holds merit. I think sometimes we're too harsh. I think it's too harsh a perspective to have on somebody who was literally indoctrinated by a charismatic cult leader for an extensive period of time to expect him to just snap out of it and be the man Ruby needs him to be.
Belief you had probably, every assumption, every relationship.
Yeah, every relationship, my professional career, reputation, you know, like I'd been fired by BYU because I refused to sit down for a Temple Recommend interview. And BYU requires it. And I was like, Jody's telling me I'm not worthy. And if I go in there and get a Temple Recommend, then I'm lying to God. And I'm going to lose my marriage. I'm going to lose my family. And I'm going to lose my soul.
Oh, that's
so
fascinating.
no, I'm not going to.
Wow.
And she would say,
I didn't
that
realize
is
that's
insight
how
we
it
never
came out.
had.
Yeah.
We always suspected, but insight we never were able to confirm.
For those of you who don't know, I actually also used to be an employee of the church, but they are protected under the law that they can discriminate on basis of religion and religious status. So they can require that you are a temple worthy, even if you're maybe not necessarily like a member of the church or anything like that. So they do audits. They do like rolling audits of employees to make sure that they have a current Temple Recommend. And if your audit comes and you are not temple worthy, you have a set amount of time to go in and do the interviews and prove your worthiness to your ecclesiastical leaders.
Or you're fired.
You're done. So he obviously felt like dirt and unworthy and like a sex addict or whatever. And he was like, I can't go in there and lie to a representative of the Lord when I know that I'm not worthy.
They have discernment.
Yeah, they have discernment, and God's going to
They'll
tell
know.
Jody.
That's
well, and
wild.
I guess if he maintained his job, then she would definitely know, and she would be like, "What are you doing? What are you're trying to hide your sins from God?" But
again, I mean, another unfortunate cult indoctrinated circumstance where he forsaked his employment, forsook, where he gave up his employment, which from my understanding, which he felt very connected to and was something that he was very proud of himself for Jody.
Because she said that he was unworthy.
That's crazy.
He was not going to fire you. You're a tenured professor. You're one of the top professors they have. But you know what? If they fired you, it would be the best thing for you. I would be thrilled if they fired you. So like, I got that in my head, like, oh man, like I need to.
Her only goal is to ruin these men's lives. That is my only, like, that's what I'm walking away from all this. It's not just
it's a
like
vendetta against men.
It absolutely, and I mean, right?
Is it a little bit deserved?
Sure, rightfully so. I'm like, if you were like, I can see like where this is like, this could be sublimated in other ways, but like it's projection, right? Like she was assaulted and traumatized by priesthood holders who were supposedly in communication with God, yet doing the thing that I think any God would
abhor,
would not be okay with, right? Except for the Mormon one. But like, to me, it's so interesting because I could see this as like I'm going to steal your wife, you know, as the ultimate, like, I got your wife. Fuck you, buddy.
Your job and I got your wife.
But like, she's taking it so far. It's not just, I'm going to steal your wife. She has to ruin these men's lives.
Right.
She has to ruin these men's lives. Like, it is, to me, it's so deeply personal to her. Because she could just fuck off with Ruby into the sunset, right? Realistically, that wasn't an outcome here. She could have just not involved herself in all these other ways.
Totally.
But she sublimates this hatred, I think,
especially
validly.
once he was finally out of the house.
Yeah.
Like, just go
He
off and do
serves
what
no
you want
purpose
to.
anymore.
Right.
Like his name's on the mortgage and shit,
Well,
but they
and
were even trying to figure that out.
All
So
she
like,
had to say was, you're not worthy. You're not stepping up. And
Yeah.
I don't know. She probably could have ridden that out for a long time.
no, this is deeply, deeply personal for her. Ruining these men is part of the equation. It wouldn't be enough to just have Ruby.
My job in order to go back to my family.
Mm.
So I refused. I'm like, I'm not going to be
Because
a hypocrite.
You
and
didn't
sit
think you were
down.
worthy?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you ask me why, I couldn't pinpoint it.
Because Jody said.
Yeah. It was like, well, I'm selfish. Because that's the whole theme of my
Mm.
separation was I'm selfish. And people be like, what does that mean? I'm selfish.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? I'm selfish.
That's
Yeah.
what Jody
I
said.
couldn't explain it because Jody hadn't explained it to me.
Yeah.
Because the prophet said so.
That's literally Mormonism. Doesn't matter. You'll
Why don't-
understand
why
at a
aren't-
later date.
Dude, that's what they were telling us. It was easier to say because the prophet said so than to explain why I can drink a Monster energy drink and not a cup of coffee.
So I'm just parroting what she says, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to sit down with my bishop and go through those interview questions because, you know, I could answer yes to all those questions, but I was like, it's flawed because there's not a question in there that says, are you selfish? Because I would definitely say yes. Therefore, I'm not worthy to go into
So
the
ultimately, you're not worthy to
Mhm.
go to the temple.
Yeah. So BYU
Wow.
fired me. So I lost like my academic career that I had worked and sacrificed so much for. So I lost everything. My kids were taken from me, you know, by the state. And I was, in every sense of the word, a mess. I was a wreck.
Just broken down.
Yeah. Over that year, I'd lost 45 pounds.
Mm.
So I was just a skinny little skeleton. And, you know, everything, like I didn't know what to believe anymore.
Right.
And then my phone was ringing every like 3 minutes by some unknown number, some like reporter
Mm.
from somewhere across the world. Like, how did they even get my cell number? I don't know, but they did.
Yeah.
And so like I was just being harassed everywhere. Fortunately, nobody knew where I lived in separation or they would have been pounding down my door, you know?
So that was your ground zero.
Yep.
What has life been like? So it's been 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
What has life been like for you in those 2 years?
A journey. I mean, I you know, I don't want to sound trite, but there's this metaphor of burning to ashes
Mm.
and then being reborn from the ashes, right? And that is really apt
Mm.
for me in my experience. Was everything in my life that mattered, everything that I had put into place to give me that external validation that like I'm a great guy, I'm, you know, people admire me, people want, everything had been taken from me.
Mm.
My reputation, you know, both professionally and just publicly.
Yeah.
My children, and you know, Ruby and Jody had done such a number with all of my kids. Like they were all brainwashed and messed up, and everyone was turned against everyone else.
Mm.
Everyone was blaming everyone else. My marriage, my family, my faith, like my religious beliefs were now all scrambled because of Jody. And you know, she had used scripture and quotes from church leaders, from like general conferences and things to control me.
Yeah.
And so that's really confusing, you know?
Yeah.
Diabolical. And again, this is where
Right.
I struggle with therapists in a religious position, especially one like Mormonism, is it's so dicey because like there's this concept of free agency, but there's also your own biases of, well, you're not supposed to be drinking and doing drugs because that's against the word of wisdom and that's not what God wants you to do. So like you got to be like next level with your implicit biases coming
Right.
up, because at what point does it get really messy when you're in a predicament of like sometimes, like as a therapist, you're always going to have opinions about what your clients are doing, right? Or like sometimes they do things that are concerning to you and you're like, let's talk about that. But like, I don't ever think I know better than my client. I don't think I ever have, like, even if they're doing something that I'm like, I don't want you to do that because I think that's going to make you sad, or I don't want you to do, like, it's not my place.
Right.
I don't know better than my client. But in a religious subtext, there are certain things that you are not and are like
Right.
are or are not supposed to do as defined by God. So how is it like in my mind, it would
There's
be
several
very
people
difficult to do
who
that.
are supposed to know better than
Right.
your client.
Right. Is it not hard, especially like as a Mormon therapist, to like, well, you're not following the prophet, you're going against God's will.
Obviously, you're depressed because
Obviously,
of that.
don't do that. Or obviously, you're not supposed to do that. Or like, because then, you know, your own stuff isn't supposed to come into the room. It does, and you have to monitor it and reel it in and fix it and talk about it and make sure you're on top of it. But like, God supersedes you. So like, does it not make sense in that position to be like, well, God's will is better than mine, and so maybe I'm the person in this life that's supposed to be like a good influence on like, well, what does God say about that? And I'm sure there are good Mormon therapists out there who navigate this and are not even worried about it. But what I'm worried about is the therapists who don't. What I'm worried about is the Jodys of the world who think that God's will and thus her will are the dictation for what you should or should not be doing. And religion,
Right.
I think, creates that and validates that because it's not what I'm telling you to do. Like, you know, the Mormon church says you're not allowed to drink. It's not me. It's the Mormon church, but you're still imposing. Like, you're still imposing that. So, like, that's where these things get dicey.
Right.
And again, this is not to say that that religious therapists are bad, because I'm sure there's plenty of good religious therapists out there. But the ones who don't keep these things in check is what concerns me.
I feel like your identity should be informing how you understand your clients, not informing how you treat your clients.
It's true. And I mean, we talk about biases and all of that, but I think there almost needs to be like an extra level, because I don't like, as a therapist, I don't subscribe to anything that makes me think that there is like an all-knower or an all-doer who has like expectations or plans or things of you that is like right or wrong. And in that, it makes it, on some level, I feel like easier to just be like, okay, let's see what happens if you go that direction. What are the consequences of going that direction? Are you okay with that? Like, let's be informed about risk. But if that's a decision you want to make, then okay, let's
Right
explore and see
ahead.
what happens. Because like, I don't know better than you. It's not my job to tell you what to do. And, you know, the majority of my clients would tell you, all of my clients would tell you, Jordan, just tell me what to do. I won't do it. I won't do that. I won't do that because I can't be put in that position. That's not my job. That's not my role. But I think for Mormon people or religious therapists who are really deeply lost in the sauce, I'm talking about bad therapists here. Religious therapists, don't get mad at me. I'm talking about the exceptions to the rule, all right? Like, I could easily see how they could justify it as like, well, I'm following God's will.
Right.
Isn't it bad if I were to tell them that drinking would be okay when God says it's not?
Yeah. Here's what you have already been told you should be doing in church or whatever. So I'm going to tell you what you should be doing, or whatever like that.
My health, my relationship with my own family, like my siblings and my parents, because I pushed them all away at Jody's direction. And all my friends, like I
Lost
literally
everything.
I was at as rock bottom as you can be. Not to mention now the tens of thousands of dollars of legal fees now, like to hire an attorney and to go through like the juvenile court to like get my, start the process of getting my kids back. And so like all the money we'd saved and built up over the years of YouTubing and stuff, I was just watching it burn like right in front of my eyes, And so I went back.
Who's we? That was what your kids earned. Just be clear here.
Our house, and the house was just, I hadn't been there in over a year, and it was absolutely in shambles. If Ruby hadn't done it, then the police who had been like ransacking our house did.
Yeah.
And earlier that year, this was 2023, earlier that spring, we had the biggest, snow runoff that we've had in history. Maybe you remember that. But we live right next to a creek, and it had completely flooded our yard and took out like 5 feet of our yard. So I'd go back into my backyard, which was like my sanctuary, my haven, and it was all just a mess.
So you lost
Broken.
your yard, your house, your family, your friends, your relationship, your reputation, your career, your faith.
Yeah.
What have you been doing to reconstruct your life? Like, what's helped you?
And this is the hard part, because
I also want to speak up for a lot of the other victims of Jody's who were men. It is like the same story in everybody's.
Ruin their life.
Ruin their life, their relationships, their friendships, obviously their homes are probably not getting raided by police, but like you watch I can think of Adam and all those people, specifically the men, where Jody got in there, and a lot of them, they had crimes alleged against them
Mm-hmm.
falsely that they ruined their entire lives. And so this is not like unique to Kevin necessarily.
Mm-mm.
And I'm not saying, oh, you can't say this without mentioning the other people, but
No,
it
but there's
just
definitely more.
stands as this is not because of what Ruby and Jody did in that instance. This is what Jody was doing all along.
Oh, for sure.
I'd love to be able to stand up here, sit here and say like, look at me, like, you know, admire me, look what I've done. Like, but I can't, because I have no freaking clue how I got to where I'm at.
Mm.
It was a matter of day by day,
Mm.
just each day, get through the day.
Yeah.
And I could not have done it without the help of real friends. See, this is the part where you can always tell the real friends from the fake friends.
Mhm.
Okay. Like all those years of YouTubing, had all these friends, we'd go on vacations together. Those people are gone.
Yeah.
And when
Woo! Slighting all the YouTube people. Does that surprise me in the least? No, it does not.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Except we have actual good YouTube friends.
Well, we don't collaborate with people very often.
Right.
Everybody, aside from one that we have collaborated with, has been all good experiences, and we like to keep our little
We keep the circle small to
because
prevent
YouTube scares me.
these kinds of situations. Shout out Fundy Fridays.
Shout out Funny
out
Fridays.
to
and
most of
Alyssa.
them, not all, but most of them, they ghosted me because I was toxic now.
Yeah.
Right. And so it became apparent to me, like, okay, so it was never really about a relationship, a real friendship. We were just using each other.
Mm. So who was there for you?
It's business. That's what it is. Like,
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah.
Neighbors,
Mm.
my family, and
Your IRL community was there for you.
IRL, get to know your neighbors.
Please, for the love of God, get to know your neighbors.
the state. Interestingly, that's a really interesting and cool story. There was a point where, you know, right at the first, I was like, I'm fighting like a dragon for my kids. You know, the state took my kids. They're my kids. I didn't do anything wrong. That's where I was at that point.
Right,
And
right.
I was like, I want my kids back. And then I just remember like, it had been like 4 nights in a row I hadn't slept. And my phone was ringing all night long. Like, I mean, like reporters were calling at all hours through the night.
Mm.
And so, you know, I turn on like do not disturb and stuff, but you're still just like, I know they're calling.
Yeah.
Even though I can't hear my phone ring, like I know they're calling.
This is why like ethics in terms of journalism I think is really important, because I'm sure these are like the Daily Mail types, the rag types that are just looking for.
Right.
I imagine it's intentional. Like if I'm calling you 800 times in the middle of the night, at what point do you answer and scream at me?
Just go,
And then I
"What?"
have exactly what I need to
Totally.
say, Kevin answers the phone in deranged manner at 1 a.m. Like, right. And like, and then you're running with a story. Like
Right.
how inhumane is that?
And still trying to like do the math. I describe it like you come to believe that like 2 + 2 = 7. And you just believe it. 2 + 2 = 7. But now all of a sudden you're like, no, 2 + 2 =
Wow, that really is his thing. The
It
2
really
+ 2
is.
= 7.
But I want to highlight, people are going to fixate on the fact that he said he didn't do anything wrong. And my hope is that his position, he eventually comes to understand that he could have done things better, but who knows?
4. But how is that right? Like,
Mm.
I thought it was 7. And trying to just do the math.
Yeah.
And the only thing that would make the equation work was that Jody and Ruby had done something really, really, really heinous.
Yeah.
But that just devastated me. Then I didn't want to go there because it was so painful. And it was in that moment and in that state where I had this realization. And honestly, I've come to see it as God. This is the point where I really started to know God,
Mm.
the real God. Not the God that, you know, I'd been like taught my whole life is like this kind of strict being that's out of reach who, yes, he loves you, but you
Mormon
need to
God.
please him, you know. Like I came to know the real God
Mm.
because in that brokenness is when he showed up.
Beautiful.
And it was in that state that I had a really strong impression and feeling that the way to fight for my family and my kids was to surrender and let go.
Wow.
And that was scary as hell.
Yeah, your kids are in state custody. I mean, that would be really terrifying.
And I didn't know what that would look like. I just didn't know. But I remember calling my attorney and I was just like, changing plans. Like, I don't want to fight the state. Like, I want to work with the state and let them take the lead in this.
Wow.
And my attorney was like, are you sure? Like, really? And I said, you know, his name's Randy. I said, Randy, I got to be honest with you and myself. Like, I'm broken. Like, I am not in a place at this moment to take my kids back.
Yeah. I remember one of our conversations, you told me that you didn't even feel like you could adequately care for them. And I thought that was really
I couldn't even
brave
take
and
care of
honest.
myself.
Yeah.
I was at the point where now depression was kicking in.
I appreciate this insight because
Totally.
as much as like it is not going to make sense to anyone, especially if you're a parent, especially if you have ever been a child, which all of us have, like it does not make sense on some level to be like, oh my God, why wouldn't you be fighting tooth and nail to get your kids back? But like I look at this scenario and I'm like, is this person and in this state equipped to be a father to children who are deeply, deeply traumatized, like deeply to depths that they probably won't even begin to understand for maybe even the next decade, and
Right.
who are all going to respond to that trauma differently and be experiencing mental illness differently based on their trauma. Like there's so much here.
Totally.
And like in my mind, I don't know how you could handle that if you weren't ready. Like if you weren't going to go into that and be like, I'm working on my shit. I'm working on my shit on the side, but my children are my priority and their healing is my priority. And he wasn't at that place.
And this is not like, oh, this was a bad situation. He's dealing with depression.
Yeah.
Losing a spouse. All of this on top of that. How is he going to help children who were tortured?
Mhm.
Tortured is what happened to them. Heal from that experience. Tortured by their own mother.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, like
It
trying to
is-
restore safety and what the child
Totally.
therapist is going to be recommending for them and like all of these things. And like even just having like anybody who's had a depressed parent, like a deeply depressed, not just like I'm managing it, working on my depression, but depression that was never rectified.
losing 45 pounds in a year.
Like anybody who has a parent who's been in that position knows it's its own kind of trauma. It's its own kind of trauma to be raised by a like not getting help depressed parent. Not just lots of parents are depressed and good parents, but like not
Yeah.
getting help, not managing their symptoms, depressed parents. It's its own kind of trauma. So on some level, even though it sounds terrible that his kids have to stay in state custody, I almost respect him a smidge more for recognizing I am going to amplify trauma additionally if I am to get my kids back at this point. Like I need to get my shit together in order to be able to be a father who's going to be able to care for traumatized children.
I couldn't sleep at night, but I was completely dysfunctional. But then I would sleep for 16 hours.
Yeah.
And then I'd wake up and I'd be so tired still. And like, like just to eat was a chore. Just to bathe was a chore.
So
Just
it's a good thing you didn't have the kids, right?
yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have been able to care for them.
Yeah. And this
Yeah.
is where, like, this was the point I was trying to make earlier, was that those caseworkers, those social workers from the state were literally like angels.
Mm.
And I mean, we've developed a beautiful friendship because I really came to see that not only did they care about like my children, but they cared about me
Mm.
and they cared about our family and they wanted what was best for us.
Wow.
And so they stepped up and man, they helped. I'm not going to say that like I loved them from the start. Like there were so many times that I wanted to just like throw this box at them or something.
Yeah.
Like, I would be so frustrated and mad and disappointed with the pace that things were going and things like that. But they are more experienced and wise than I am. And so they were a huge support to not only my kids, but to me.
Wow.
And then neighbors, some of these neighbors, were in the documentary. They were so supportive, and my local church leaders, so supportive and loving. And it was amazing how my community, my neighborhood, and my ward just circled the wagons around me.
Mm.
And even though like the world was just barraging me with.
Pouncing on you.
I didn't feel that because I was sheltered by their love and their care.
So relationships. I mean, it's interesting. Relationships are what got you to that place, right? Manipulative, controlling, unhealthy relationships. And also relationships are what helped you climb out of it and what helped you heal.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's a key difference in those relationships.
Yeah.
Like
Destruction versus
yeah. So the former, the ones that got me in that relationship or that mess, were the relationships that were more like dynamics. They were abusive. They were controlling. They were transactional. And, you know, if we get to the point where we boil down, like, what are the takeaways from this conversation to anyone who's listening? You know, one of my key takeaways would be to anyone who's listening and just feels like things are weird or feels dissatisfied in their relationships. The key thing to look for that I've discovered is that was true for me was those transactions. Like all that transactionalism, just, you know, I did this, this, and this for you, therefore you owe me this, this, and this. Like that mentality is so toxic and it's a red flag. And I was there and we needed real help. And I didn't realize it. I thought the transactions were good. I thought the transactions are what worked. It's almost...
As a therapist, especially a couples therapist, I don't disagree. This is sound perspective, and it's often something that I will identify if I'm working with couples who are experiencing this very early on. The transactionalness of things. This is a different conversation than emotional labor and like balance and household responsibilities and like what that looks like. But the idea of, well, I did this and you did this, and well, I did this for you and you didn't even acknowledge it, and well, I blah, 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 blah. And like there are a lot of things that contribute to why that is happening, and like that's what I aim to get at. But he's not wrong. Like if that's happening in the relationship, let it be a red flag for like something needs to be addressed, because it's usually a symptom of something larger. So I don't disagree there.
Totally.
Love languages, right? Like what love language can I speak that will get you to give me what I want? And vice versa. And we're just going to transact with each other. If that like is poking someone who's listening to this today, seek help before crazy happens.
Seek help.
Why do you say poking too?
Seek help.
Did
I
you
say poking at you during therapy.
Oh, really?
Or things poking at you. Was that too pokey?
Jody would say that too.
Does she really?
Poked? I remember her saying that specifically.
She said poked. I've never said poked.
I guess a lot of people
I will
say
things are, I won't say pokey all the time. I'll say pointy. Like, was that too pointy? Can I say something that might come off a little pointy, but then I want to unpack it?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So trust yourself when you feel like something's not right or something's off or there's not the mutual love and respect, and it's just more of a transaction is a great word.
Yep. If you don't feel that genuine tenderness, that desire to do something for the person you love for no other reason than you love them and want them to be happy, seek help.
Yeah. You are, you've been really vocal about two issues that we've talked about before, just in personal correspondence. But one of them is regulation of the life coaching industry. Do you want to talk about kind of what you've been working on in that area?
And this is good because, I know one of the hats that you wear is of life coach. And as you know, like I've pinged you lots of times to get your take on things because I appreciate and respect the stance that you've taken as a life coach and the the great wall of China that you've built
totally
between
separate.
like your professional license career and your life coach career.
Correct.
And so that's the first thing I want to make clear. Like I know there are 10 jillion life coaches out there. I am not saying you don't deserve to exist. Like life coaches can play a very important role in our society. I really think they can. The problem is when life coaches cross that line into the realms that can really affect people's lives and relationships, and they have no certification, they have no formal training or education,
licensure,
they have no oversight, so no one to be accountable to if they cross that line. So I don't know if you're okay with this, but sharing like how you reported Jody.
Yeah.
So So, Julie, you reported Jody to Utah Department of Professional Licensing, DOPL.
Yeah, I did.
And you told.
When I was working for Julie, we had a conversation about this. It actually, I already have a lot of respect for Julie and her role and what she does and how she exists in this space as a very vocal, culturally Mormon now therapist with like all these crazy misogynist people who are always at her door and causing problems and all of these things. But like she did report Jody to DOPL fairly early on in the process. And it grew my respect for her quite a bit, because even as like a life coach herself, like she keeps them separate, but she operates in both roles, like being able to look at that and be like,
hello,
what are we doing? What is going on? And so like people being proactive in this process, like I think I appreciated her even more knowing that she had done that.
About it. You reported them, I think it was like March or April of 2023.
Yep. Where
if DOPL had actually moved on that, my kids were taken down to Jody's house in middle May of 2023.
I know. It's so frustrating. And had I known that Ruby was a client, then I would have had more to report. I was just reporting based on the unethical advice they were both giving regarding mental health and relationships. And and I had documented time codes on videos and sent them like, this is unethical behavior for a licensed therapist to be saying these things.
Yeah. And so do you remember what DOPL said to you?
They said it's freedom of speech. And unless she's doing something with a client that's unethical, there's nothing we can do. I didn't know Ruby was a client, or I would have reported that. I mean, when the story broke.
It sounds to me, I don't understand why he was like, oh, the state worked with me so well with my children. And now he's like, the state should have done something, like the licensing board should have done something.
Well, they're separate.
But it's still part of the state.
I mean, it's part of the state, but it's separate in the sense.
So he knows that there are
issues.
There are issues, but there are also like standard practices that they have to follow. And it's the law that dictates what she can and cannot say in this instance. So
I don't know a single therapist who loves the licensing board that they operate under.
Right.
There's, and I don't necessarily blame them for operating it this way, but I think there could be a lot of improvement, and I just think that there's not a whole lot of interest in making a lot of substantial ones, more like minor ones. And I don't know why that is, and it's not, I'm licensed under this board. Okay. So I'm trying to be careful with my words, but there's a perception. And even when I was in grad school for therapy, there's a perception that licensing boards don't do much unless you're having sex with a client. And even then it's kind of debatable. And like most licensing boards are public with disciplinary actions. Like if you're ever bored, you can look up your state therapy licensing board and you can actually read the infractions and what people are getting in trouble for. It's actually all public information. You can read it all. So if you're ever curious, sometimes it's kind of funny to look through. But like that's kind of the perception. And so like it's very hands off in some ways and in some states. And then in other states, it seems to be like more hands on and more intense. It's not like nationally regulated. Like each state kind of has their own way of how they go about things. And so you kind of have differing expectations based on where you are. But like there is a hands tiedness to this when therapists are kind of doing things like in terms of like things that aren't really like necessarily against the rules.
Yeah.
Most of the time the state's not really going to do anything.
And like, what would they do? They'd email her and say, hey, we need to
you
investigate this.
Things
you
like
can't
that.
say things like this. And then if she didn't respond, they terminated her license.
They would
like
never.
The implication that maybe this wouldn't have happened to their children is kind of baloney.
Well, yeah, unless they knew that Ruby was a client and like she moved in and like all of those things. And I think they would have taken action on that.
Right.
I don't know if it would have prevented them from doing something with the children.
Right. CPS or DCFS in Utah wasn't even able to do anything. And they visited
that
dozens
house multiple
of
times. Yeah.
So,
well, and I think even if they did, they were like, hey, Jody's already been disciplined by DOPL before, right? So she's already on their list figuratively for violations and already had to get her license right again. But even if they knew that and they were like, hey, you can't move in with your client, that's weird. There's no guarantee that they would have even taken her license. But even if they did take her license, what does that do for the kids?
It doesn't, it's not a crime.
I don't think it would have mattered.
It's an ethics violation.
I don't think it would have mattered. Like it would have been a blow to her ego, sure.
Right.
But I don't really
And then
think
she
it would have
probably would
made
have
that
gone
much
on
of
a
a difference.
tirade like
She would
L.
have.
Ron Hubbard. And his
She
whole
absolutely would have.
anti-psychiatry,
And like, who's to
psychology
say?
thing.
We don't know for certain. Maybe it would
Right.
have totally altered her track, but I kind of think that she was not as invested in the therapy element and just kind of used it to like assert herself up. I don't
was
think
just
it
a
would have.
title, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
At end of the summer, what they had done to your children, I was horrified
Yeah.
to learn that you were clients. I mean, that would have been so reportable, and they would have acted on that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the basis of my current and ongoing civil lawsuits against her right now.
All that being said, you should just report anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially.
So we were clients, and she acted unethically, committed
All
malpractice.
across the board.
Yeah.
All across the board.
But what Doppel didn't realize was that while she's out publicly making those statements, she's promoting and marketing that stuff to her clients.
Right. It is damaging her clients.
yeah.
I just didn't have proof of that at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Is basically what Doppel was saying is, well, she's acting as a life coach, and we don't regulate or oversee life coaches. So that's freedom of speech. But if she's doing it in a session with a client, then we can intercede and act. And now it's this like game where a lot of professionals, and there are a lot of them, where they like have these two hats, and they're like one hat, other hat, both hats. No, they're
There are some states that have shifted language within the laws around this where you are held to the same, like if you choose to be a life coach and a therapist, you are held to the same standards while operating as a life coach that you would be as a therapist, and they can bring claims and complaints
Absolutely.
against you even while operating as a life coach. And I personally think that's the way it should be. You choose to wear both hats, then you should be. And if I were ever in that position, that would be kind of what I would be doing is like, there should be no difference in terms of like how you perform ethically in terms of those two positions. There should be differences in terms of the content of the work that you're doing. Right. And so like, that's how I think it should be handled, is like, regardless of if you're operating as a life coach, if you are a licensed professional, you should be held accountable in both roles by your license. That's my perspective. But I don't like, that's not the way it is in Utah.
If corporations can police you off the clock as being a representative of their company, then they should absolutely.
And I get
hold
not
these
wanting
professionals
to
the same
overdo it,
standard.
because like there is something to be said around like therapists are very scrutinized in terms of having personal lives, and it used to be way worse than it is now. But like there's kind of this idea that like, oh, if my therapist voted for Trump, I'm going to report them to the board, and it's like they don't care because I'm an individual outside of being a therapist, and like I can be a person, and like it's the only reason that I can have this job is I can express my opinion under the First Amendment and have it not impact my job as a therapist necessarily. Like it might impact in other ways. Yeah. But I'm not going to, unless I was doing something unethical or inappropriate, I'm not going to get disciplined for that necessarily. And like, could somebody try to do something or make a complaint? Sure. But like, there is protection for therapists baked into this because you are a person outside of your therapist role, as you should be. Mm-hmm. Like you should still be able to be a person and have an identity and have personal opinions. And obviously I don't agree with all of my clients in terms of political opinions or religion or any of those things. And like, that's just the way it is, but that's normal. Right. So I think that's the line that they're trying to balance, is if Jody's out here saying crazy shit in her personal life, well, she's not acting as a therapist in her personal life, but is she though? Like, can we like really, really look at that and be like, she's saying some things that are actually really harmful. She might be advocating for abuse. She might be like, this is kind of intense. Maybe we should make an exception. You know what I mean? Like, it's not all black and white here.
There's nuance, case by case, right?
In this game, but we as clients, we don't know the difference between a life coach or a licensed professional. Like, to us,
you guys
everything she did was like had her credentials, LCSW, I think it was.
I think she was a licensed clinical mental health counselor, so CMHC.
CMHC.
Well, I think they changed that, didn't they? More recently,
it used to be LPC, and then it was CMHC.
LPC, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was LPC. Yeah. So everything had her credentials on it. Yeah. All of her books, everything. It was like Jody Hildebrandt, MS, LPC.
Yeah.
So you bought those books going like, oh, like this
was written by a
professional
therapist,
counselor giving me professional advice.
And let me be clear. I always want to say this too anytime this stuff comes up, because people are like, oh, you're trying to make yourself better than a life coach. In some ways, I am better than a life coach. In some ways, I am. I have a master's degree.
Absolutely. Because I can say I'm a life coach. I can do whatever the fuck I want under that umbrella.
Yes. Yes.
I can't say I'm a therapist. I'm an LCSW because that's not the truth.
I'm not trying to come at this from an elitist perspective. And I understand there is immense privilege in being able to have degrees and do those things. And I get that. I am talking about the life coaches who are like loser behavior, doing shit that they know they shouldn't be doing. That's what I'm talking about here.
How is the average person supposed to know
Right.
that you as a life coach are not that?
Right.
There is nothing.
I have more experience. I have more supervision under people who have been in this field decades longer than I have. I have background education. I am taught very intensely how to work around my biases, the stuff that's coming up for me. All of that are things that like I have had to go through and continue to go through to be a good clinician. And in part, most of that is to protect the consumer. Most of that is to protect the client, as it should be. But like there's danger in it being not regulated, and you can just label yourself a life coach and think you're going to go help somebody. But that doesn't mean that there's not shitty therapists. That doesn't mean that there is not shitty ass therapists. Obviously there are. This isn't just like, oh, that therapist wasn't for me, because that happens to every therapist. But it's like there are people who are bad at their job, right?
No,
like totally. I see people on TikTok who fall asleep in sessions. I see people who say things in session that my clients have told me or friends have told me that I'm like, what the fuck, are you serious? Believe me. There are plenty of people with my qualifications, my education, who are also terrible. Okay. I get that.
But that's what the board is supposed to be
like,
for.
I look at it from a perspective of risk. Like there is less risk involved seeing a person with more qualifications, with more things that keep you safe as a consumer than there is for a life coach. And are there life coaches who are going to be better than those shitty ass therapists? Sure.
Julie
for
will
example,
100% be
Julie, for example.
Yeah.
Fantastic
better
example.
as a life coach in her role as a life coach
than some of these shitty ass therapists that exist, right? But they shouldn't be doing therapeutic work for you. And the majority, like, I feel like the majority of life coaches, if you go to them and you tell me what's the difference between what you do and what a therapist does, and if they can't talk to you for like 30 minutes about those differences and give you very clear, concrete examples and give you very clear scenarios where they have navigated this and how they've navigated ethical situations where it bumps up on the line, and in what situations would they refer you to a professional? Like, those are the kind of things that I'm looking for. And the majority of them aren't doing that work. Because if they do that work, then they're out of a job. If they have to send their clients to me, then they're kind of pointless.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, that's what I want people to be mindful of. I'm sure there are lovely life coaches out there who have like fantastic experience and information. And if you feel confident about who you see, then more power to you. But
I would feel confident
just
seeing
keep
Julie.
in mind the risk.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it adds credibility.
Right.
And she was constantly throwing that in all of her speeches and everything. She would constantly drop that she was, her field of psychology, that she was a psychologist. And
which she said that on camera to the police, which is actually,
I know,
that's unethical because
it's a lie.
She's not.
She's not a psychologist.
a licensed psychologist. You can't say you're a psychologist.
I know.
That's a very different designation with very different qualifications. They are more advanced,
a different degree
than
even.
you're like they have different fields of study. Sometimes like a lot of them do therapy, but some of them don't. Like there's a whole lot of things that go into that, and they usually get paid more than I do by insurance companies. Like there's very distinct designations, and you can't answer to anything but your qualifications. That is something that Doppel could punish her for. You can't come out here and say you're a psychologist when you're an LPC.
I was like, what is she saying?
That one statement right there just basically guaranteed like my malpractice lawsuit against her.
Yeah.
She
so
lies.
What are you working to change? What would you like to see happen regarding life coaching?
I want to see life coaches either regulated or the wall between life coaches and professionals regulated. But the point is that there has to be a means by which people who are affected by life coaches, hurt or damaged by life coaches, can hold them accountable.
Yeah, there's no account.
I think they should answer to the board.
Totally.
There is no reason that if you are going to be working with individuals that you should not be held accountable to a higher state. Remember Kendra? Like Kendra is a life coach. She sees she does ADHD coaching. Remember?
Yeah.
Kendra, who had that whole thing where she fell in love with her therapist and like kind of had a whole episode on
her
TikTok.
Psychologist.
Yeah, her psychologist.
Who didn't misrepresent.
He did not misrepresent himself. But like, she's out here and other people are saying that they've like, there was that one woman who did coaching with her and was like, here's all the shit that she did that was bad. And there's no means of holding her accountable. If I fuck up a client, if I do something horrendous, there's a chance that I'm held accountable.
Kendra went on the internet and was telling all the business about this
client. She isn't bound by confidentiality.
Right.
She doesn't care. She doesn't care about HIPAA.
It's
She
the
doesn't care
Wild
about
West
any of
out
those
here.
things. Right? So, like, this is what I'm talking about in the sense that, like, I don't think, to me, it's kind of sketchy if, like, you want to be a life coach because you're, on some level, you know, you're not held accountable. I can't be shit at my job because I'm held accountable by people. You can just be shit at your job and they might write you a bad review and talk about you on the internet, but, like, that's kind of the end of it.
Right.
Like, there's not a whole lot other people can do, and that's what should be changed.
Right.
They should be regulated by the state. It doesn't have to be by the therapist board, but there should be something that regulates them.
Which
There
is
is no accountability.
which is one of the biggest problems that licensed therapists have with coaches is there's
Yeah.
no accountability.
Right. They're like ghosts.
Yeah.
And even Doppel has said, like, one of our biggest
Don't mind us. Jordan did a little outfit change because she had to go and
I had to go
therapize
do my real job.
her day job. Yes. And
So my clothes are different. Sorry.
yeah, Jordan had to therapize. But now we're back to finish this out.
happy to enter the realm of like couples counseling and addiction counseling. One of the things that I see so often, and it just eats me alive, is there's this constant ad or advertisement on Facebook. Facebook, like, the algorithm knows I'm a man in my 40s, right? So it feeds me stuff that it thinks would be appealing to me. And there's this constant ad of this guy who gets up there and is just like, I am a expert in dealing with pornography addiction. And, you know, sign up for my course and you can finally break this horrible, horrible thing that's destroying your life. Like, I didn't know that there was like specializations in pornography addiction. Like,
Well, it's not even a diagnosis
I know.
in the DSM. It's
I
not
know.
a thing.
But people don't know that,
Right.
right?
Right. And
And
coaches
so-
get to say whatever they want.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this guy's out there peddling snake oil. And you got these people who, because of the conditioning they get, because of their faith and the culture, it's like they're desperate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they go to this guy and he's just cleaning house,
Yeah.
making
And
money.
charging hundreds and
It is interesting to see him because in this instance, he sees it for what it is.
Mhm.
Like, he can tell that this is conditioning that has come from Mormonism.
Yep.
And people are capitalizing on that. I just think that's kind of wild for someone who, I mean, he's seemingly still Mormon. He's talked about being Mormon still, right?
I think so. I'd be shocked if he ever left the church, but
Right. At this point, I feel like it would probably hurt him more to leave the church and realize the way that
bro,
I believe that it set him up to be taken advantage of by Jody.
no, I believe that it did too, but like I look at it from the framework of like I can't imagine his life blew up. Like Jody ruined his life.
Genuinely.
Like top to bottom burned the whole thing to the
Totally.
ground. Could you imagine at that same time also kind of going through a faith crisis? Like, dude, that would do me in. Like if he had to hold on to one thing, in my mind, that's understandable. It's like your whole life just
Right.
blew up in front of your eyes. It does not surprise me that somebody would want to cling to the one thing that might still work, you know?
I don't want to be a hater or whatever, but it seems like when people have moments of clarity like this, they're usually on a path.
Yeah.
Usually. Not all the time.
Who knows?
But
hundreds and thousands of dollars.
Right.
Yeah. So you would like to see life coaching regulated or some kind of bigger separation between them.
Yeah, we
the
had to start.
professions.
We had to start
Yeah.
in this last year, in 2024. I kicked off the effort with a state senator, and it got passed along to another state senator. And initially, like, the initial draft of the bill really had teeth, and it was going to make a difference. And it was really interesting because the professional mental health community, they got behind that so quick. They were so supportive and said, this is great, this is wonderful. But I underestimated the power and the influence of the life coach lobby. And they got in and wreaked havoc.
Really?
Yep. And that bill was not going to pass
Mm.
because they got in and started talking with all the representatives and senators around the state and saying how it was like, it was infringing on their rights and all that stuff.
This is fascinating to me.
this is Utah.
But that's
for
all you need to say to a Utah senator to get them on your side
Right.
is infringing on my rights. And they're
This
like, whoa,
is-
whoa, whoa.
Yeah. What rights?
It doesn't even matter if it's true. And it's
Right.
not. If I have to be regulated by a fucking legislative body So do you.
Right.
This is all to
It's-
avoid scrutiny, consequences.
They don't care.
Monetary consequences.
Right.
Like,
It's whoever has the money, because they don't give a shit about your rights as a consumer. They
no,
only
no,
give
no,
a
no,
shit
no.
about the rights of people who will give them money, guns, and churches, and that's about it.
This is also ridiculous.
That's-
This is why mental health professionals need to unionize, because when a life coaching industry starts to beat out the mental health professionals around legislation like this, that's embarrassing.
In the shadow of one of the most horrific instances of a life coach perpetrating a crime in the state.
Yep.
Hello?
And they're not all one organization, but isn't it funny how in this circumstance they act like they are and they all come
Right.
together? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I feel like I didn't hear about this.
I didn't hear about this at all.
Because I thought I guess maybe I was under the understanding that it was still kind of in the works, but I guess it's dead. That's a shame.
And, you know, so what got passed was a much boiled down version of it, which was essentially it defined areas that could only be practiced by licensed mental health professionals. And anyone who practices in those areas is liable for lawsuit, liable to be sued. And so it's better than nothing, but there needs to be more.
Yeah.
There needs to be more. Like these
But like
individual-
it also leaves, it puts the onus on the consumer, on the client to know where the line is.
Mhm.
Because if you're crossing the line as a professional, so to speak, you're not going to report yourself. Why? That's you're going to put the blame on yourself. Like,
No way.
You're expecting people to do the right thing.
No way.
Crazy.
life coaches need to come out of the shadows. They need to be known. They need to be seen. I personally feel like they need to be regulated.
Yeah.
By whom? I don't know. Honestly, I feel like they should be regulated by something like the Department of Commerce because
as a business.
because really what they're selling is a product.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the Department of Commerce, it oversees the selling of all sorts of products. So if they're selling a faulty product, they should be held accountable.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to make it
Well,
clear.
I mean, there's regulations for like beauty industries or for
Yeah.
I mean, those are all services, and I think a service is more of a like you have to go to school for things like that. But I don't know. I feel like there's so much that could be done, but it sounds like there is big political opposition for anything being
Well,
done.
I almost wonder about like there's these life coach organizations that are like, you know, when people are trying to appear more reputable, they go to these like life coaching schools, right? And they get like a certification from a certain life coach, and it's not a university, but it's like a stupid certification thing. And I wonder if it's those groups that are lobbying because they don't want to lose out on money.
Because then there would have to be some sort of governing body that gives accreditation to your class or
and
your
then they
institution
lose money
or whatever.
Yeah, I bet that's what it is.
There are amazing life coaches out there who do ethical work, who stay in their lane, who are really helpful for people, and they recognize the limitations of their role.
Yep.
And there are lots of good ones out there.
Yeah. And these individuals are the ones that are like, yep.
I'm a hater. This does not have anything to do with Jordan. What does a life coach do that a therapist couldn't help you with? That's all I'm going to say.
Sign me up. You know, I'm not afraid. Like every other profession is registered.
Especially because I don't feel like life coaches are that much more accessible than a therapist would be financially.
90% of the time, they're charging like double what I charge.
Crazy.
And I take insurance. It's crazy.
Crazy. But that's my opinion, not Jordan.
It's true.
Let's go ahead and let's validate our profession.
Right.
Let's legitimize it. Put me on a registry of life coaches, and that way maybe it'll bring more business to me. Maybe I can now grow my reputation just like any other professional. But it's the ones that are like afraid of that.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that
Watch out
for.
Yeah. You've also been really vocal about protecting child content creators.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about the work that you're doing in that arena.
Yeah, so it's not lost on me that the root, or maybe I should say the straw that started the break of the camel's back was family content creation on social media.
Good to hear.
Some self-reflection. We
Good to
love
hear.
that.
And I saw firsthand what that world did to my children,
Yeah.
to me, to my wife, to my family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we get a lot of money? Absolutely. Did we have some cool opportunities? Absolutely. Did we make some friends? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of other stuff that came with it that people don't like to talk about because it's uncomfortable, but it was there.
Well, it seems very similar to child stars, the laws that protect child actors.
Yeah.
Right? They can only be on set so many hours. They have to do school. They have to. Yeah.
And they're not, like, their parents aren't allowed to manage them. So in a child star, so we're talking about now like Coogan laws. So, you know, these laws have developed after decades of experience in Hollywood where child stars, let's face it, child stars were exploited from the start. But now these laws were slowly put into place as these children became adults and they filed lawsuits and won. Now these laws have been put into place over the decades where children, for example, children's actors are entitled to trust funds or trusts that are out of reach of their parents. So it's only they can access them when, you know, the time is appropriate or right.
Yeah.
They're entitled to separate representation from agent that's not their parents. They're entitled to like educational opportunities. And so they're, you know, whoever's hiring them to film a movie is required to give them so many hours of education a day. They're entitled to like benefits and healthcare and medical people and like psychologists on set. They're entitled to all of these protections that are there for their well-being and good. None of that is in place for influencers on social media.
Because it's so new. It's so, I mean, there haven't been decades and decades of problems that needed to be solved.
Right.
But you saw firsthand the havoc that can be.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about this, you know, I wasn't part of this, but there's a very good documentary on Netflix that's still out there. It's called Bad Influence, The Dark Side of Child Influencers. That shows firsthand what happens or can happen when a parent uses their child to profit and get rich and get famous. And the thing that like was a hard pill for me to swallow, but I swallowed it, was admitting to myself, to my children, and eventually to the world that 8 Passengers, our family vlog, only existed because of our children. If it wasn't for our children, no one.
Thank you. That's what we need to know. It's probably just the way that he speaks, but when he says our money or whatever, like, bro, it wasn't really. So it's not that big of a gripe, but it wasn't you guys that was that interesting necessarily. It was mostly your kids and the relationship that you had with your kids.
And I think that, you know, I think Kevin would understand that, but it really makes me wonder about Ruby. I could see her being very agitated that the kids are what people are invested in and not her, right? Because that's not going to fuel the wound that she has, right? And like fill that for her. But I wonder if part of that like dawned on her when Ruby and Jody went off on their own and their views were like
shit,
absolute shit.
Nothing.
Compared to
Nobody
the family
wanted to watch
vlog
that.
channel. Like, I truly wonder if she thought that it would translate.
Right.
And part of her world crashing down in this whole experience was realizing that people didn't care about her.
Right. We could even see it because you would look through their channels or even similar channels, and what are the videos that are getting the most amount of views? It's the videos where the kids are the stars, where they're getting hurt, where they're the center of the story. We didn't often see videos like that where Ruby was the center of the thing and getting all the views.
Yeah.
I think you're right, where she was like, and that's part of why she kind of just turned over the Instagram, and they were trying to turn the channel over to Jody because they thought, oh, it's the numbers and it's Ruby that are the heart of this channel, but that definitely wasn't the case. And how the channel performed or any of their uploads performed after the fact were just proof of that. But I will admit, this is like a super complex situation because like when it comes to child stars and like where it started with like Judy Garland having to chain smoke cigarettes in order to keep weight for the film, and they forced her to they starved her and did all these awful things, and she had an awful life because of it, despite the fame and the notoriety and everything.
She's
like
one
that.
of many.
Yeah, she's one of dime a dozen at that time. But there is, I mean, Hollywood was a place where you would go to do these things, and studios had to be registered, and there are unions and all these things. Whereas YouTube, you can start in your basement.
Yeah.
The entire channel can be confined to one room in your house, and you could go forever with no one ever seeing how the sausage is made and things like that. So it's a complicated thing. And I don't know what the solution is, but certainly there is someone out there who can figure out something to do.
How to protect kids. I mean, our stance is and has always been just don't put your fucking kids on the internet.
Right. But people aren't going to do that.
If they're going to do that, then like let's find ways to protect them.
And ultimately, I think the number one company that should be in charge of that is the social media companies where this content is being uploaded. That would be YouTube.
But they make
TikTok,
too much money off this content,
whatever.
you know?
Yeah.
Like they make a lot of money off of those family vlogs. That's not something that they're interested in going away.
I don't know. I just wanted to,
And therefore, my children were exploited.
Wow.
And we use them for content to get clicks, get views, get likes, and ultimately get money.
Yeah.
Now, did we pay them? Yes. And I know most influencers today, like parent influencers or momagers is what we often call them, mom managers, momagers, they pay their kids. Like child influencers are among the highest paid kids in the world. And everyone makes it about money. But there's so much.
But also, like, I know they're probably not dumping that money, like all the
on
money
those kids,
that those kids are getting. But like access to that amount of money very young, or even something that's not regulated, I also see having its own problems. Because like I look at the Nelsons, like look at those kids. Like I'm sure Tiffany gives them cuts because they're going and spending buku bucks just about everywhere. Giving them that money, I would argue, was probably not great for their mental health either.
No.
Like being able to buy anything that you could possibly want is not generally a healthy thing for a child to experience.
Maybe people are out there and they're like, no, we do pay our kids. And it's like, okay, whoop-de-fucking-do. That's what you're supposed to do because they're the ones who are doing the labor.
But like what's getting sacrificed?
Yeah.
Their childhood?
But and then there's also the other side of the coin where I don't know that you're paying them a fair amount for what they're earning or
Probably
whatever,
not.
or setting aside the rest of it or whatever. There's nothing that is holding these parents to do the right thing. And as we know, if you're just expecting people to do the right thing,
they don't.
There's no reason for them to.
Newsflash, they don't.
So
these things have to be regulated for a reason. If they didn't, people would still be abusing child stars, and to some extent they still are. So like,
seriously.
Again, like we just can't expect that they'll do the right thing because they won't. But it is good to hear Kevin say that he recognizes that they exploited their children and they used them. That's that's what we would want in this
That's
situation.
exactly what we want.
Yeah.
Right?
Just the money.
Right.
The mental health is atrocious among child influencers. And these kids are being trained and taught by the world that the universe revolves around them, that they are the most important person in the world because to their parents, they're the golden goose, right? Without them, their parents aren't making 6 figures or 7 figures or 8 figures a year.
Yeah.
And so they get that message. And I promise you that those individuals are going to struggle and do struggle developing healthy relationships in their lives. And you, of all people, will know that the secret to happiness in life is fostering deep and meaningful and healthy relationships. So those kids, even though they're rolling in money, are being set up to be the most miserable people in the world. Why do you think so many child stars commit suicide?
Or drug.
Or get into
overdose
drug
or-
overdose or addiction?
Yeah.
Because money does not bring them fulfillment and happiness.
And notoriety doesn't either.
Nope,
You don't
it's a
know who you
curse.
can trust.
It's a curse. You can't go out in public and just be anonymous anymore. And this is one of the things that I'm telling lawmakers around the
This is something that I think we've talked about before, but not only the money, but the mental health implications of children being exposed to the internet. Like, our comments are generally pretty positive, but even as a therapist, I don't read the comments. And so I can't imagine being a young child, and everybody remembers what it was like to be a young child, especially like a preteen or a teenager or a teenage boy or a teenage girl, and just how much part of your identity, and this is a normal part of development, just how much people's perceptions of who you are filter how you feel about yourself and how you feel about the world. And I can't imagine like the nastiest people on the internet saying things that then register with you. Like being on the internet in this space means people bringing to light things about yourself that you've never noticed before. Like doing this job, people have pointed out things about myself that had I not been on the internet, I never would have known. And I'm fine. I'm an adult. I can handle it. I have the mental health practices to keep myself where I need to be, and I set boundaries where I need them. But children aren't taught that. Like,
well, and you've got almost 29 years of
right,
practice.
Right. And it's still hurtful and it's still annoying and it's still like you brush it off and move on. But like I have almost 29 years of being able to do that. And children don't have that capacity. Children can't even regulate themselves. So like, why would we expose them to like, and I think it's bad for everybody to be exposed to every opinion on the internet. I think it's part of the reason that we're in the absolute fucking mess that we're in right now, even as adults. And so, like, why are we giving this to children who are trying to form their own identity and figure out who they are? And then they're being influenced to be what people like. They're being influenced to be like what's going to get views. They're being influenced to be a certain way for content. And in my opinion, like we could even talk about, like Julie talks about this a lot, the idea of identity foreclosure. You have these really formative experiences or a religion that basically kind of aligns that identity for you before you're really able to choose who you are. And I think this is a good example of this happening where it's kind of formulated by what the internet is wanting and expecting of you. And so to me, that's just like, why are we giving like the worst mental health crisis possible to children by doing this?
Right. Something that Jordan and I, after, years of watching things like this happen with like kids on the internet and everything, Jordan and I often go, look at our son and how he acts and go, we could be so filthy fucking because
it's
he's
true.
Witty. He loves YouTube. He even like he pretends that he's making a little YouTube video and he's
hilarious.
talking
He's
like
so
YouTubers, so smart and all that stuff. But I know that if he ever came to me and he was like, Dad, I want to do a YouTube channel, emphatically, the answer is no. Because I know that it is a gilded veneer of what it's like to be out there and all this, and he's just not ready for that kind of exposure.
It's not healthy for him.
It's not healthy
safe
for any kid.
Plus, we don't even talk about like the gross aspect of this, that there are really gross, disgusting people out there who love watching children on the internet. And that's an area that I think gets discussed a lot, but I think it warrants discussing here that like just because those people aren't necessarily making it known that you're watching their content doesn't mean that they aren't. Like, like it was only a few years ago when that random lady showed up like to Bonnie's house and came in, remember? It was a fan who like went in her house. Like you have children, like people are crazy. Like this is just not like, there's just so many reasons, but we often talk about like how nice it would be to have a whole lot of money. We just would have to stop having morals in order to get there.
It's alluring. Obviously. And there's money in it. There's, you want to see your kids succeed and everything like that, but it is just,
it's too high a cost.
It's not something I would ever be okay with.
It's too high a cost.
Yeah.
They're like, well, isn't it just about the money? I'm like, no. Well-being. So I have started using a phrase that others have picked up, and it's called the right to anonymity. And so a child should have the right to be able to walk into a Walmart and be anonymous. Nobody know them. Nobody recognize them.
Yeah.
But if a parent takes that away, that is a huge loss. And there's no amount of money that can compensate for that.
Yeah.
There just isn't. And so in Utah, we went through a huge effort with Representative Doug Owens. He's a great guy. I mean, that guy is man, when he gets behind something, he pursues it till it wins. Yeah. And so he was the right representative to champion this bill. And the content creation community, all of my supposed friends, they were adamantly opposed to this. They lobbied, they got together, and they hired attorneys to lobby Congress here in the state to try to shoot down this bill.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have the money to pay those attorneys if they weren't making it
Exploiting
off
their
the
children.
backs of their children.
And we were like, well, hold on. I thought you said that you're putting your kids' needs, your kids' health, your kids' well-being at the top priority. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
One of the things we wanted in the bill was when a child turned 18.
You can't tell me on some level that these parents don't just see dollar signs. You can't tell me. I won't buy it. Especially with the amount of money. Like Kevin's talking 6, 7, 8 figures. The amount of money Ruby was talking about, millions of dollars, experiences, PR, all these things that were just given to them. You can't tell me that these parents don't get hooked on the money.
In a way, it's not just your child's labor. It's their likeness, their personality. It's their experiences, their own stories that are being sold, and what are they getting in return? They're getting people recognizing them out in public. They're not able to live a normal life. It's just...
I think about job interviews. I think about when colleges look people up on social media. I think about, like, you talk about the Nelson kids saying the N-word. And there being scandals and thing around that. And here I am thinking about it from like an average working class person brain of like, they're going to have to apply for a job one day, but they're probably not. So that's probably a moot point to them because they're probably not going to have to work. But should they ever abandon this lifestyle, on some level, they're screwed. It's like the first thing especially in today's market, somebody pulls up your name on Google and the first thing it comes up is this Nelson saying the N-word. And it's like,
you're going to have to work for your dad. Like, that's...
And, like, kids shouldn't be racist. There's no excuse. But, like, on some level, kids are going to do... And I'm not talking about saying the N-word, because there's no excuse for that. But saying stupid shit and doing dumb things, kids are going to do that. But kids should have the freedom to do that sort of anonymously on some level. Like, you should be able to fuck up in the comfort of your own home and have some social consequences if they're warranted. But it shouldn't be broadcasted to the entire nation, right? Like, when Chad went to fucking torture camp. Like, it shouldn't be broadcasted for the entire world to see that you're struggling as a teenager. Like, that should just be a personal, private experience that you get to have.
To have the right to say anything that has my face, my name, my image, my likeness in it, I want removed from social media. And to give them the right to go straight to the platform and demand with, the algorithms that social media platforms have today to nuke everything that had their name, image, or likeness in it.
Wow.
And social media fought that like a dragon. They brought in their huge, high-powered attorneys to lobby little Utah Congress people. And then the social media community here, the content creation community, gathered together and they hired attorneys to fight against that. They did not want their children.
I want to bring up something here. Social media has a lot of money, but you know who else has a lot of money and could have fought regulations against them? The porn industry. And they didn't fight against those bills as hard as these companies are fighting against this. So just an interesting observation.
Children to have the right to take down content that featured them when they turn 18 years old.
Wow.
So if you really stand up to what you say, that your top priority is your child's well-being, why wouldn't you honor that? Honor that request.
What happened with that bill?
Well, we were able to negotiate and reach agreement on a lot of the key points. A lot of the things that I argued for got taken out. A lot of the things I argued for were left in, but they had loopholes put in so that if a creator hired an attorney and that could navigate those loopholes, they could essentially avoid being impacted by this bill.
Do you feel like it was like a success in spite of the changes?
It was a success in that it was a first step.
Okay.
But so much more needs to be done.
Yeah.
This is why money has to come out of politics. Like, it has to happen because there is not a single bill or a single industry or anything that does not get impacted by people with money lobbying for something.
Right. So they basically just shut out any of the new people, and those who already have the money because they've been doing it now have an opportunity to continue making that money. I wonder if when he's talking about his friends and people in YouTube, if he's talking about his former in-laws.
I wonder about that too.
That would be interesting. I haven't seen them say anything specifically.
They still put their kids in their content, so I'm sure.
I would imagine.
Actually, It is a bill that requires parents to set up a trust fund for their children who appear in their social media monetized content and that appear in at least 30% of the content.
Okay.
And they have to then share at least 15% of the earnings with that child who appears in at least 30% of the content. And that's essentially what the bill is. There's more to it, but that's the big point of the bill.
15% for 30% of...
It's nothing.
That's fucked up.
That's nothing.
But obviously,
like,
I get it.
Good steps in the right direction. Like, we have to start somewhere, right? We have to start with something. But should this even be, like, truly a conversation?
Right.
Look at Baloney. He was just staring into the light.
Especially because production costs are, on YouTube, can be limited to one person with a camera.
Well, yeah, once you have your stuff, like, it's a one-time purchase and you're good.
It should be closer to 1-to-1.
Yeah.
1% per 1% of airtime.
Now, that's great. And everyone's cheering and saying, hooray, victory, we're done. And as I said, you got to understand, most of these kids were making like easily 6 figures a year. Some of them 7 figures a year already before this bill was in place.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's not about the money. And this is what I want people to understand. My kids were very well compensated financially for everything they did on 8 passengers. And they were still negatively impacted. What people don't appreciate and understand that I share when I talk with lawmakers is after all that my kids went through, the trauma, the horror, the abuse, the torture, everything they went through, the thing that continues to haunt them and that they continue to struggle with today in their mental health and with their therapists and things is not everything that happened with Jody and Ruby. It's coming back to the real world. Here we are, like 5 years after we stopped vlogging. It's being a normal kid again. That is the hardest thing for them.
Just being a regular kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not about the money.
Yeah.
And all these creators.
What Kevin is saying here, I think, is important because I think people need to understand that the money is the least of the issue.
Right.
Like, even if you pay your kids for this content and you pay them handsomely and they'll never have to worry about anything a day in their life, like, even if all of that's going on, you're still sacrificing things that can't be returned.
Right.
Their childhood can't be bought back. They can't go back in time and rehearse these years in a way where they're not in fame constantly. Like, there's not, like, you can't put a price on that. And I think that's what Kevin is emphasizing here that I think people should walk away from is, like, the money is the least important thing here, in my opinion.
That's part of it with me is we have taken it so seriously that even our personal Facebook pages or other social media pages that have been locked down for years at this point, we don't post any pictures of our son on that because the people who we hold dear in our lives have relationships with us and with him
and have their own photos.
have their own photos, and the people who we have specifically made sure do not have access to him for whatever reason have no notion of what he even looks like at this point because they don't deserve that. So it's, what do I gain by posting photos of my amazing, witty, darling son to people I don't give a fuck about anymore? Well, it doesn't do anything but basically use him as a pawn for some sort of social points or something. Well,
especially with the rise of AI and you know we're AI haters in this house. You should probably know that by now, but like using like those kinds of things, using your kid's likeness to generate photos of other children and like all of, like the nasty things that people with nasty intentions use AI for and all of those things out there. And also, I think it's just important to give children the opportunity to create their presence on the internet in the way that they want to create it when they're old enough to do it. Like, as a kid, I wouldn't want to have like my personality, my brand, who I am established before I even get the opportunity to use social media as like a teenager. You know what I mean? And so, like, it just doesn't seem fair. Like, it's taking away something from them and giving people an impression of them before they get the chance to create one themselves.
Right. That are out there, like, I love you. God bless you. So many of you are my dear friends, but you are in denial over how serious your kids are being affected by this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love your passion about this. I mean, you've seen.
I'm glad that he's mad about this. There is
Truly.
nobody who should be on a soapbox about this more than Kevin. There is nobody who can say, I've been where you are. I know you've got the taste for money now, but listen to me. Listen to me. My kids were literally tortured, and they think family vlogging was worse than that. Like, that should tell you everything.
It firsthand what it can do to kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, keep in touch with me about these efforts, and I'll do what I can, because I'm on board.
I mean, so we're talking now to representatives in multiple states that are looking to put in bills similar to what's been put in place in Utah, California, Illinois, New York, and so it's going to spread. But more needs to be done. These kids need to be protected.
Yeah, I love that.
And if I may, this wouldn't be a problem if you, the viewer, weren't constantly feeding off of this type of content.
Yeah.
If there was no demand for people to like get into the private lives of these kids, social media wouldn't promote it and push this type of content.
Yeah. Everybody has a part.
So stop.
This is something that
We've
I
talked
feel
about
like,
this since the beginning.
right, and it's something that I don't see enough noise about. I specifically saw a TikTok of a lady, I can't remember what her name is, but she's famously like saying rude things jokingly about her husband, like, "Oh, are you taking a shower to go to the gym because you're seeing a woman?" Or anyway, some freak was like, "Oh, well, show us your kids." And I saw people in the comments, they're like, "It wouldn't be weird if it weren't coming from that person." No, it's weird to ask to see random people's kids on the internet who you don't know to see their kids.
We've normalized it, but it's weird.
It's weird. Like, it has to be, at this point, we just got to be like shaming people. Like, why the fuck do you want to see these people's children? What is wrong with you?
And their lives.
That's not normal behavior.
I'm like, y'all, if you want drama and shit, go to TLC, okay? Those kids are all fucked up from their experience too, if that's what you're looking for.
Right.
Like, go watch Sister Wives. Go watch The Duggars. Like, if you really want to be nasty about it and you want that, then there is literal programming out there that exists that you can watch that isn't necessarily harming the children in the same way. It kind of is, but at least it's already recorded and you're not giving them views. Like, in terms of YouTube, what you're like, view counts is very important compared to like a reality TV show. Like Sister Wives and what it needs to keep going, right? Like those are already taken care of. But with YouTube channels, you are what's making the money. Your views, your clicks, your watch time, all of that directly makes them money. It's not the same with reality TV.
Right.
It's not the same. Are they both terrible? Yes, but I'm trying to give you a better alternative if that's what you want to engage in. You know what I mean? I just don't understand. Like, there is programming and shit out there that you could read that will give you drama and multiple children, and like, maybe go read a book. Maybe go read a book, because there's a million fiction books out there about any possible scenario you would dream of. A loving family with 1 million children. It's been done. It's been done. You can find 1 million books about it. You're set. Like, why do you need to watch these people? I will never understand it. And maybe it's just because I've never consumed family vlogger content and I have no interest in it.
Sure, maybe it's easy for us to say.
But I just, like, if you're looking for wholesome and funny and family content, like...
There's nothing wrong with an adult person watching Bluey.
No! Or, like,
Go ahead
I think
and watch
about
Bluey.
My Wife and Children. Like, there's oriented... like family-oriented shows that discuss family topics in a funny way.
Right.
But part of me thinks that part of the reason people like this stuff is because these people are accessible. And that's concerning to me. They're accessible in a way that the average celebrity is not. And I don't know, maybe it's just because it's more relatable, because it's like, oh, these are real people. They aren't celebrities, but they kind of are. Like, in terms of their communities and where they live and their national recognition to the fact that their kids can't go into a Walmart without being recognized, it's different. But just go watch something else. Stop watching this content. If people didn't watch it, it wouldn't be a problem. But there's a bit of a formula with family vlogging that, you know, if your kids are cute and you do some hospital videos, you can usually get some cash.
Watching it. Stop supporting it. Stop commenting it, subscribing to it, liking it. Stop following creators that put their kids all over social media. Teach them the type of content they should put out there with who you choose to follow, who you choose to like, who you choose to watch.
That's powerful.
That goes for big influencers too.
Right.
When people talk about, like, in the day and age in which we currently live, in the political climate, the influencers who you feel are out of touch and shit, like, it is on us, and I loop myself into that. It is on us to critically examine the people that we give our social media currency to. Because on some level, it does matter. And it's an easy way for us to disengage if it's not something that we want to be supporting.
I'm a big advocate of just scroll. If people are doing stuff like that where they're using their kids in a way that feels inappropriate, even just scroll, honestly. There are tons of good ways. I think about Alex and John, who are making content about this stuff, absolutely fucking killing it, are funny,
It's
and
hilarious.
they don't have to include their child.
Never seen their kid,
Their
and I
baby.
couldn't be happier for him.
Right. Or the Oh Buddy guy too. I see that guy all the time. He's so funny, and he doesn't need to use his kid's likeness in it. He's funny enough to just carry it on his own.
He does it
with his
himself, and it's
wigs
hilarious.
and everything like that. So like the same style of stuff can be done, and you don't need to have your kids in it. You don't need to have their stories being told, or
There's no reason.
or things like that. It can be hyperbolic, and a lot of times it's better that way.
It's funnier that way.
Kevin, thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
I want to end with this question. If you could go back to your younger self, pre-8 Passengers, pre-Jody Hildebrand, what would you say to him?
If you could have, like, if you could go back in a time machine 15 years and approach, little Kevin, 32-year-old Kevin, and say, hey, Kevin, in the next 15 years, you're going to get a PhD. You're going to become a professor at BYU. You're going to accomplish a lot as a professor. You're going to become a YouTuber, a famous YouTuber. You're going to have one of the largest vlogs on the internet. You're going to get involved with a psycho cultist. You're going to join a cult. You're going to be
After you were already in one.
yanked and separated from your family. Your kids are going to be taken from you. You're going to lose your career, your reputation, your marriage. You're going to lose your private and public reputation. You are going to be divorced. You're going to remarry. You're going to find true love and happiness with somebody else. If you would have told me all of that stuff, I don't think I could have handled it. But I've learned that for me, the path to my greatest joys and happinesses were only through treading and doing the hard work to trudge through the deepest and darkest valleys of my life. There was no way. There was no going around, over, underneath. I had to go through it. And I found myself by going through it. And so I would probably tell that me 15 years ago, I'd probably just smile, pat him on the back and say, love you. Knowing like what he was going to go through.
Yeah.
Such a therapy question. That question gets people all the time. I know a lot of times people who are like, oh, I've been through terrible experiences, but like I would have been fine with it had I known that I would get to the place where I am and everything. But I just wish for this man that he would have never met Ruby. And like, I know that means he wouldn't have his kids. And so I'm sure he does not wish the same because he loves his children. But Ruby was a big part of all of this coming down. And I don't think he would have gotten involved with Jody, really, if it weren't for Ruby really pushing it next. And so I got to hand it to him for, on some level, being resilient enough to make it through this experience and not let it completely destroy you as a human being. But also taking accountability where it's needed. And we can't know how he's showing up and taking accountability with his kids. But from what I've seen, Sherry has started to call him dad again and not Kevin. And I think that's a really good indicator that he's doing what needs to be done with each of his children in his own way. And like, obviously, we're not going to be privy to any of that, nor should we be. But I can appreciate the fact that he is being introspective and reflective, and he's going to therapy, and he's taking ownership of these things, and he's trying to make amends, like restitution, trying to protect other family vlogging children. Like, I really can't ask for a whole lot more of him. at this point. Obviously, I would have liked him to just not have been involved in any of this to begin with and just not family vlog. But like knowing what he knows now, I think he's trying to make amends. And I think in a situation like this, recognizing the harm that you've committed and validating that and owning that and acknowledging it and then trying to make restitution is really all you can do. Like, I think that's
even more than restitution. He's trying to go out of his way to help other children to not befall the same fate or end up in the same mess mental health wise that his children are in because of that whole situation. Yeah. Which I think is really admirable. Obviously, there are a lot of people who are going to have a lot of feelings because of like his inability to act or whatever. And obviously and all that's valid. You're valid in feeling that way. It was a hard watch to see all of this happening and be saying, these kids are being taken advantage of. They're making money off of this. They don't understand the impact this is going to have on their kids. And then seeing almost like one step below the absolute worst outcome that could have happened with this family and the aftermath that came with that. It's obviously people are going to have a lot of feelings and
our
anger toward him and everything like that
comes out of this, right? Like this isn't to invalidate anybody's feelings, but it's worth exploring. Like, if you have very strong feelings towards Kevin, which I think on some level we all do, making sure that there's nothing else there. Like, if you were traumatized by a parent and stuff, it's valid in the sense that we want to explore that more. If it's coming up and bringing up a lot of things for you. And there's righteous anger in this. Obviously, I would expect people to have strong feelings towards Kevin, but I always like when those things come up, I like as a therapist and even individually, I like to use those as a tool to explore. Like, I think this is touching on something for me that might need to be revisited or might actually need like some healing on my end because it's reminding me of a feeling that I had. And I like my inner child frustration at Kevin is like really deep and really intense. And like those are opportunities and like windows into our own experiences to look at and make sure that we're tending to those parts of ourselves too. So like my point here is not to make anybody think one way or another about Kevin. Because, like, I don't care how you feel about him. However you feel about him is valid and fine. But, like, if there's something else there, make sure you're taking care of yourself. If it's bringing up other things for you, make sure you're kind of, like, looking into those things or exploring those things and making sure that you're allowing those emotions to come out or dealing with them or looking introspectively at what might be there. Like, that would be my curiosity for people when dealing with Kevin.
Obviously, there's a lot to glean from this. I truly do think that there needs to be regulations and things surrounding family vlogging and children on the internet. And obviously, I'm not the person who's going to be out here able to come up with a solution to those things. And there will certainly be corporations and people who are going to have their interests threatened that are going to be fighting against any sort of protections that are going to be put in place. But I feel like when you're trying to keep children from experiencing severe mental health issues or worse as a result of like interactions on social media and things like that, I feel like you almost can't go wrong because ultimately we have seen now at this point a very good case where people can come out of the other side and go, that was absolutely wrong. I don't think anybody should be doing that.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have expectations for Kevin at this point. I mean, he's let us all down and disappointed us all in a myriad of ways throughout this process. And that's fine. He's living his life and he's going to fuck up and he has. And I think the only thing that I wish going forward is that he works to, have a relationship with the kids if that's what they want. And it takes accountability where accountability is due and makes restitution where he can. And I think he's doing all those things. Does that mean that I really like him as a person? I mean, I like him more than Ruby, but I think people walk away and are like, oh my God, you guys like Kevin. And it's just more complex and nuanced than that. And I think we can hold space for complex feelings around an issue like this. It's not going to be a black and white type of thing. I don't know. I wish the best for everybody in this situation. I hope the kids are all happy and healing and where they want to be and moving through these experiences and going on to lead normal private lives. That's my hope for all of them.
And ultimately, it is just like, I like hearing the kind of the details of this and seeing the parallels with how Mormonism, in my opinion, basically set them up to be involved with Jody. And some of that is on Mormonism for, creating those systems that Jody used against them.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, more of that is on Jody for, twisting them to her own designs and everything like that. But it's just interesting to see just how easily people are laid into a trap for someone who has bad intentions.
For sure.
Anyway, this one was a long one. I didn't think it was going to be.
But you asked,
this
so we
much
delivered.
Longer than the other one, but yeah, you asked, we deliver. If you'd like to see more of this, you can hit the subscribe button.
I'm not trying to butterfly, but my back hurts. So.
Butterfly. Hit the subscribe button. You can hit the bell for when we do new uploads and stuff. With the new year, we've got a lot of stuff planned for the first few months to make up for our absence last month, but
we have plans.
The holiday season, and everybody deserves to
take a break.
Be with the people that they want to be with. It doesn't have to be your family. But in this case, it is our family, just the three of us. If you'd like to support us further, you can check us out on Patreon, or you can become a member of the channel to get some bonus content, support
we'll
us.
We'll be doing watch parties for The Bachelorette with Taylor, Frankie, Paul, which is coming out, I think, in March, I'm pretty sure.
Ooh, yeah.
So that'll be coming up.
Do that a lot more. So more watch parties coming out. I think I've got bloopers to edit and post as well. So keep an eye out for that kind of stuff, and it helps us out, and we appreciate all of our patrons and members, and you're all amazing. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can follow us at Jordan and McKay on TikTok and Instagram, and just Instagram more often is Jordan reposts all kind of stuff on TikTok, but Instagram we post stories and stuff like that. That's more about us.
Yeah.
Or you can, if you want to join our Discord, you can find a community of awesome like-minded people. It's not all about us over on Discord. It's just a place for you all to be. It's also where we do our watch parties when we do them.
Oh.
So you can find the link to the Discord in the description down below. But we love you. You're awesome. If you have the means, talk to someone in your state about doing some stuff to regulate this family vlogging bullshit.
Yep.
I kind of want to talk to somebody. I don't know where to even start.
I was thinking about emailing some of our reps and seeing who's interested.
Anyway, if you could help us and you live in Colorado,
let us know. We can gather up.
But we will see you next time.